Today we're doing a resume workshop. We have a lot of resumes to review, and we will definitely get through. If you sent your resume, we'll do our best to get through it today. And if not, do it later this week. But we will be on here as long as it takes. This is we do these resume workshops quarterly, and they're very educational. I think from whether or not you're watching this live right now or you watch it in the future, we'll definitely cover a lot of things to make your resume very strong and stand out, and a lot of common mistakes that people are making on an ongoing basis with their resumes. And so this can be a really good exercise. And I think that several people that have attended this in the future really have, in the past, said that these workshops have helped them to get positions and all sorts of things. I've seen lots of attorneys in the past screw up their resumes with mistakes that, frankly, could often be very easily avoided, and hopefully we'll catch a lot of those types of mistakes today. And I would say you're asking who's reviewing your resume today and who will be talking about it. Personally, I reviewed well over 500,000 resumes. I review hundreds of them per day. I've been doing this for over 20 years and have gotten people by redoing the resume and by spotting good resumes have gotten people jobs in pretty much definitely every large law firm in the country, but also thousands of other firms. And pretty much I get someone a job almost every day of the week. So hopefully I will be able to give you good advice too today. And I'm about ready to show you some of the stuff I know. So let me stop this real quickly and I'll pull up some resumes here and we'll get started. This first one here, and let me just share the screen. So as I talk today, I'm going to share with you guys also a bunch of rules and things that people do that can be problematic in their resume. This first one may not be the best example to share with everyone, but it's one of the ones that was sent in. This is a resume of someone that got a LLM in the United States and then a degree in a foreign country. One of the first things I would say, just as a general rule, and for these resumes, by the way, we tried to clean them up so we don't give away who you are and so forth to other people. So there's some privacy here. This particular person is an LLM and hopefully would like to get a job in the United States. So one of the things is in the United States, typically you don't want to use different colors on your resume. You typically want to make it just one color. People are looking for just a short amount they don't want to have kind of all these colors. It's difficult when you're getting an LLM many times to get a job in the US. This is just for people that are LLMs. I do recommend getting a JD if you do want to work in the US. And then most of these experiences here are fine. They're related to what you're doing. Research work is very heavy here. I don't know, you're probably in the certifications and so forth. So for the most part, this is not a US resume. It's more of a foreign resume. But one of the things that I always do, and I want to, let me just see here, open second here. I do need to open Grammarly. Let me see here, document entry. So let me just save all these. Give me 1 second. Here. This should work now. So everybody too, by the way, I would highly recommend, especially resumes, installing things like Grammarly and so forth on them. What most good attorneys will do anytime they review a resume is they're going to look for things like spacing, commas. You can see here there's spacing issues. Sometimes you can see here where it's saying remove the space, add article, add comma. So this stuff is extremely important. If someone sees these kind of errors in a resume, typically, it makes it very difficult for them to take you seriously as an attorney, because the job of an attorney is to avoid these sort of mistakes. And then even things like this, like Honorable Delhi High Court, you can see how that's spelled and the commas and so forth. One of the problems a lot of times people have with foreign countries when they do resumes is making sure that they're following these formatting issues. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I'm a specialist in US-based resumes, but that's one of the things that I would definitely recommend for this particular resume is proofreading it. And it's very difficult as an LLM to get a position in the United States unless you have experience that's going to be very directly something that can help U.S. law firms or U.S. legal employers. And the only way to really make sure that you're doing that is to try to make your experience look like it's direct. It's going to be relevant to what a U.S. law firm is doing. Okay, so let's see this one. Okay, so this is another resume here, and of course the name and so forth is taken off. You can see here again, there's a lot of typos. I don't know are spacing issues, so you need to go through and fix all those. So this is something, by the way, that that you need to, like, your resume is a very important thing from the standpoint of the proofreading, and how quickly you can get through ideas, and how quickly you can present things. I don't know if these typos we converted it for you. I don't think they are. We need to make sure that is. So this particular resume, I want to talk a little bit about it and some of the issues that I'm seeing with it right now. So typically, let's see here. When you're 4 years less or more out of law school, what you want to do is you want to put your education first. And then your admissions typically go beneath all of that information. You put that at the end or something. And you also want to try to be very clear with your language. But I'll talk about that in a second. But this particular resume right here, there's a bunch of things I'd like to talk about. So the first is this person is now working in White Plains, working in-house, doing real estate related things, and they've been doing that for the past year. Prior to that, it looks like they were a law clerk. That's fine. But when they graduated in 2019, May of 2018, so that would be November 2018. So they were a law clerk after graduating. Okay, and then they've been doing this since June 2010. Okay, so some of the problems with this resume. This is actually a very interesting resume because this person is making a lot of very typical type of mistakes that people make, and so I'd like really to hone in on that. There's a couple problems. The first thing is there are some kind of employment gaps here, which make me a little bit nervous. So there's an employment gap from the time this person got out of law school till they got this job as a law clerk, and then they were only there for a month, and then they were gone for 6 months, and then they took this job here. And so I don't like that, and I would like some sort of explanation for that. And then you can see here, like, they were a legal intern during law school. The description of what the person did as a legal intern is much longer than the description of even what they're doing now. And the same thing is happening with this other in-house internship. And then it's also called corporate and commercial experience. So really what this person, needs to do, and this resume, by the way, needs a lot of work. You would have experience here. I don't even know that it's only 1 month. So I don't know if this is necessary to have that position if it was only for a month, certainly. And then this particular one was for 3 months. It was during school. I don't know how relevant that position is. It's why only 3 months would be the question. So there's a lot of short jobs on here. And then this one was a person was in-house law school. So that would be another question as well. Is this legal internship, is that really necessary? So I might even put these internships down and try to make that something that you don't draw as much attention to that, and you just put down that this is your current position right now. And then of course fixing all of these spacing and other issues would be a good idea as well. I'm just going to go through this, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But these internships, you have too much stuff here. Now, the thing I don't like about this resume, and if you want to work in a law firm, don't want to work in a law firm, or you don't want to work for a company, then this is actually a very good resume. But the problem with it is that you're saying everything but working in a law firm on here. So you're saying corporate experience, you're saying public interest experience, you're saying all these different things, whereas really what's going on here, and this is a summer internship, so that's okay. You shouldn't be separating them, because you're really saying, I prefer to do all of these other things that are related to government and public interest. And that's a problem. And a lot of times people, if you want to work in a law firm, they may not like that, because it seems like this is where your interests lie. And so this is a good resume if you want to do public interest, and then you de-emphasize this. But all this stuff, really, you have litigation, you have loans, it's just the resume is all over the place. So it needs to be more focused. Also, you're working in New York, but you've only taken the New Jersey bar. So people are going to wonder about being fluent in all of these foreign languages may actually detract from, and there's nothing wrong with being fluent in these languages if you think that's going to help you get a job, but it may actually detract from the message that whatever you want to do. If you want to be a public interest attorney and work for an Islamic company or these different groups and so forth, that's fine. Here, I don't know what this is, but this youth group founder, but this seems like be where your interests lay. So your interests are really in things related to whatever volunteering and helping people and doing that sort of thing and being part of these religious and other type groups, which is fine, but it doesn't read like a law resume. So it doesn't read like somebody that wants to work in a law firm. It reads like somebody that wants to do something else. And then the question, people are going to wonder if you took the New York bar and what happened with that. And then you have all this stuff here, this concentration stuff doesn't matter. None of this really matters. These are not honors activities and things that you did. None of this stuff. Maybe the secretary of the Muslim Students Association is an honor. I don't know how big that group is, but anything that points out things to do with religious affiliation and so forth is often problematical in some resume. If someone's the secretary of the Christian Students Association or the Protestant Association or the Catholic Students Association, I don't know that they would put that on their resume. Certainly there's a demand for diversity in law firms and so forth, but really what law firms want is they want to see, in most organizations, is they want to see some sort of focus. So this resume is very common that a lot of people do, and this sort of resume will hurt you because what you're doing here is you're showing that if you want to work in a law firm, everything about this resume is showing that you have an interest in doing things really that aren't related to the type of work that law firms do, that your interests are things that are different and that there's nothing wrong with any of this. Here you're doing intellectual and sports law, but then your only experience has been in all these other things. And then emphasizing these other languages is good if you believe that's going to help you. But I do think that a lot of times, and then this is all related to loans and so forth, but then these are completely different types of jobs. So I'm left very confused because there's just a lot of things going on here. If you want to clean this up, and then the next time we do a resume review, love to look at it. I do think this resume does need some work, and it's just the issue is here, it's just not focused enough. Okay, and this resume, it looks like this better. And as we go through these, you guys will get a lot better understanding of kind of what makes a good resume and what doesn't. And I know we always see people with resumes that are from younger people and then from older people. So this is a good resume as well. Okay, so this person is in New Jersey. I don't know that the licensing in New Jersey at the top is really relevant. You can put that at the bottom. When you're trying to work in a law firm, and I'm assuming that this is what this person is doing, and you certainly can get a position in a law firm. This stuff, by the way, everyone has to. You always want to take a look at your language, and to the extent you can, and make it as. Of course, you observe prosecutors and defense attorneys, and just think about and most of this stuff, by the way, people know what a law clerk does, so. I don't even really think you need to have a description of it. I just think everyone knows what a law clerk does. And then same thing here. So people know what law clerks do. A lot of times it's not, this is fine that you're a law clerk here, but when you start talking about using words like personal injury, automobile accidents, and construction defect, what this does, anytime people do this sort of things, you need to lead people down a road. So the road you lead people down with your resume, it's basically you need to show people that you're motivated to be in a law firm, and that's what you want to do, and that you have the kind of values and things that the people do. So let me just show you the problems, things I don't necessarily like about this resume and that are detracting from the message. So doing all this community service is good. But at the same time, people are going to wonder, what kind of grades did you get if you were doing all this public? Because grades are the most important thing in law school. So that is important. To say you remember the honors college is okay, but you got, which is great. I don't know about departmental honors. People aren't going to know what that is. And it is good. But saying all this stuff about community service can detract from your message, unless you want to do community service and work for the government, in which case, then this is good. But if you want to work in a law firm, you want to lead people down a path. So the path that this is leading people to right now is you could be a family law attorney, you could be a litigation attorney, you could be a personal injury attorney, or a construction defect type of attorney. And so anything that detracts from that is going to hurt you. So bankruptcy will hurt you. All this community service stuff will hurt you. You can put the fact that you like doing community service and enjoy doing community service, but you don't want to make that the emphasis of everything. Because if people see that, they're going to think that maybe you're not going to want to work in a law firm. And keep in mind, that's what I counsel people on. So most of the stuff, I think it's good that you did all this community service, But at the same time, you have to remember that the people that are trying to hire you are businesses. And a business is going to be more interested in your ability to do the work and to even to be a little bit one-dimensional about it than they are about all these other things you've done. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like these. I mean, I think these are emotions. And you don't even have to say that. But if you start using words in your resume that have nothing to do with the kind of work you're applying for, which is personal injury and slip and falls, automobile accidents. So as it stands now, this is a good resume. As with this experience that you have, you could go out and get a job in a good law firm as a litigator or as a family law attorney and do all those things. If you start using words like personal injury on there, that's going to hurt you because it looks like, even though you didn't do it very long, well, actually you did do it for a while, but there's probably no reason to put all this on there. It's just, you were a law clerk for quite a while, actually. Looks like, but you don't want to, and I don't think you litigated, well, maybe you did litigate, but a lot of the stuff when you're doing an internship and stuff, you have to remember that there's something called the scent. So every resume has a scent. And the scent you want is, you want to put people on the scent to reach a conclusion about what you are. And if they reach a conclusion about what you are, then that conclusion is basically, if you take all this stuff out, it's basically going to say this person is a litigator. And if that's what you want to do. If you want to do public interest stuff, then you can leave all this stuff on there. But if you take most of this stuff out, it's going to be a better resume. I hate to say that because I know you're proud about everything you've done, and everybody is, but all law clerks do pretty much the same thing. It's within reason. And then these are, this was a job you had while I think you were in school. So you don't want to have that on there. But other than that, I like this resume a lot. I think this is a great improvement of the last two I've seen. Okay, so this person graduated in 1989 and then became a member of the New Jersey Bar in 1990. Okay, I don't know why that's necessary. If you graduated in 1989, theoretically, you should have taken the bar when you graduated and passed the bar right away. If it took you later, that means you did a clerkship or something, or you just didn't pass the bar. So there's no reason to draw attention to that. The education for someone that's been out of law school that long should come later. You should put that at the end of your resume. And then 1989. Okay, so this was a legal. So your first job was as a legal compliance associate. Okay, through 1995, and then you've been working in the state. Okay, that's great. And then this is a board membership. So I don't think this would go. That would be other, and then everything would go like that. And then so this resume, I would think you want to move this to the end. You want to have a little bit, if you've been doing the same job for the past, if you did been doing this job for 26 years, I would probably put a little bit more, just more of a description on here and do what you can on there. And then just again, mix all that up. Okay, just 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, so the next one, let's see, LLM in International Maritime Law from Swansea University, International Trade. Okay, United Kingdom. Okay, JD, PS. Okay, I think what I'm going to want to do in the future when I do these reviews is the formatting looks a little off.
Yeah, because I'm copying from the PDF.
We should probably look at the PDF separately and then.
Okay,
yeah.
we'll do that.
Okay, then let's see here. Okay, this particular resume though is interesting. There's a lot of things going on here. Let's see here. So the person graduated in 2017, so it's probably okay to have that on there. This particular resume I like this resume. I just don't understand what the person is necessarily trying to do. This is probably a very good resume for someone trying to do maritime related work, but for the most part, chief investigator. Yeah, there's too much going on here. So there's and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but again, you have to, when I look at this, I see someone that it looks like you've worked overseas a lot, you've done a lot of different things, and then you're interested in maritime and natural resources. Whatever the focus of this resume is, and this is just a problem that a lot of resumes have, is people need to believe, there's a lot of things people need to believe with their resume, and I'll show you this real quickly. I'm just going to open up a new blank document. But people want to know can you be managed? What else? Do we like you is another one. And so this person, they've never really worked in a law firm. So as a resume for someone that maybe wants to do work inside of a public interest organization or something, this is good. But at the same time, we don't know this. You majored in international relations, but then you did natural resources, and then now you're interested in Syria, community development, trademarks, international law, natural resources. So there needs every international trade, amorality law. So there needs to be with every resume needs to have a theme. So like the theme needs to be that you can do a certain type of work. And I don't know necessarily what the theme is here. What is this person trying to do? And you need to be able to, a resume is not, so this is a big lesson. So a resume, and I hope you guys can understand this, a resume is not to list everything you've ever done. It is to show an employer that you are a good fit. And you're not a good fit, not figure out. So there has to be consistency in what you're doing. And there's environmental on here. I like that. But then there's public interest. Then there's fishery technician, which looks interesting. There's international relations. This resume needs to be focused. And so I see a lot of resumes like this. And the problem is if someone looks at this in a law firm, and frankly, in most organizations, they're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to not to know what this person stands for. They're just going to say, they have all these interests. Where's the focus? What are they trying to do? And that's an issue. So you don't list, a resume doesn't list everything you've ever done. A resume, all it needs to do is list a few things and then point people in the right direction. And here this person has went to teach. So as a teacher, this looks like a good resume. I like this as a teacher. I like this resume for a lot of things, but I'm not sure about a law firm unless it's more focused. Okay, next one. Okay, so the first thing is when people like to put their salaries on their resume, and I would love to get more input on this resume. Sometimes I'm on these resume reviews and I see a resume like this and I ask people to review it. If you want to resend it, and we can maybe do another resume workshop, but it needs to be focused on whatever you want to do. And you don't need to talk about all these different things you did because there has to be focus and it has to be focused on something. Okay, so the first thing is you don't list your salary on your resume. If you list your salary, when an employer wants to know your salary, they want to know your salary so they can pay you a little bit more or a little bit less than you're making. That is just not smart. I've taken people that are making $80,000 a year and gotten them jobs for 2 or 3 times that. I do it all the time. So you need to, but there's a lot of things I like about this resume. You don't put the phone number on here. You don't need to do that. That's not necessary. People will ask for that later. So you don't need to do that. If you brought in business, you can put that, but I don't know if that's necessary. So this person graduated. Okay, so remember, when you've been out of school for less than 4 years, you put your education at the top. No need to draw attention to the fact that you're an evening law student. No need to draw the fact that you got a certificate in compliance. Put that other, you can put that maybe, and I wouldn't even call this honors. I would just put whatever this is. Eagle Scouts, good. You guys don't need to put all these local bar associations. Anybody can join the American Bar Association that's got a checkbook. Same thing with the Prince George's Bar Association. These getting admitted to federal district courts and stuff, anybody can do a motion, so you don't need to do that. None of that is that necessary. I think here this wasn't a very long internship. Probably don't need a lot of information here about it. You can if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think about this stuff about saying you were unpaid is necessary. We have all the stuff in here about money. These are the same dates, so I don't really get that. Maybe the dates are messed up. It says approximately $15 hours. Yeah, so just take off your salaries on there. Take off this unpaid stuff. No one cares. And then most people aren't really spending a lot of time doing stuff. This is a good resume, though. The resume is good because you look well positioned to work as an employment attorney. But let's take off all this stuff that has nothing to do with you being an employment attorney. Let's take off all this stuff about you having supervisors. And just basically, if you're trying to do something, and I'm assuming you're trying to do more employment, which I hope so, because you've been doing that for almost a year, and that's how you will get a job. You can get a job in lots of employment firms, but you need to really make it look like you're an employment attorney and take all this stuff out that detracts from it. And By the way, when you put extra language and so forth on your resume, it just confuses people and it gives them much more stuff to read. And people don't necessarily like spending a lot of time reading things. It's just annoying. And you don't need to tell people you make less money than you make, or you're more money, you're less money. No one cares. It's not, you just don't put it on there, and you don't put information that's unnecessary. Like, it's not, you don't need to put on that you got admitted on motion to the federal district court, or you're a member of the American Bar Association. No one cares. And I wouldn't even say professional associations or bar admissions. I would actually, these are just professional associations too. So I would just, you don't even need to call bar admissions. You just make things easy for people to read, and people should be able to look at your resume. If I saw this resume and I was looking for an employment attorney and I saw all this stuff, I would get confused. But if I saw just this at the top, I would be happy. Now, if you don't want to be an employment attorney, you want to do something else, that's a whole separate discussion. But as it is now, this resume is in good shape to be an employment attorney. Let's see what this person's doing. Okay, so this is another foreign resume. And I apologize, but I am not an expert. I'm an expert in US resumes. I don't know that I can get into too much detail with this particular one. I think a lot of the same things that I say are the same for this resume as for others. I think you want to be very careful about anything that deals with things that aren't related to practicing law. So a lot of times people do this. They're very happy about things that they do that are unrelated. And so here you took a CFA exam, you did a pitch to do something else, and now you're an accountant. So this is, so I don't know that I can give much help with this particular. Okay, here's another one. This person, so this is, let's see here, is a LLM Golden Gate, LLM Stetson, LLM University of London. This person has a lot of Master of Arts from Harvard, BA from Harvard. Okay, so this particular resume, this is an older attorney, and there's some issues here. But people put on the idea that they're able to use Westlaw. Things like that are just assumed. I like this thing. Some things I like about this resume is I like the employment stability here. I like that. I don't necessarily like having volunteer jobs in the middle of a resume. And these are just the ideas when you're working in a place that you want to pretty much have a lot of stability doing that. You also need to make sure you have the addresses or the locations where you're working. And I don't know. I guess this internship that's in is fine. Yeah. So this is a US resume with an LLM. I don't know if that even qualifies you to work in a law firm, but this person doesn't have the bar. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this resume, but I would emphasize anything that you've done that's legal related. Okay, this is a real legal resume. This person's work from Drake University School of Law, class rank, top 25%, Drake Law Review. Okay, so let's talk about class rank. So with class rank, it's useful to put on your resume that you were Juris Rank with high honors. So high honors would imply better than top 25%. So I would just take that off. And then I would say that you're on the Drake Law Review. And I wouldn't even call yourself the online editor. I would just call it editor's fine. But if it's online editor, that's fine. And that looks better. Top 25% is okay. It's very good, actually, and you should be proud of it. But Drake is not like a top 20 law school or anything. It's not. So just saying you graduated with high honors and is enough. It looks better than 24. You were obviously a very good student there. Okay, let's see. So now you graduated in 2019, and then in 2019, you were a summer associate at this firm. Great. If you received an offer, you always want to say that if you received an offer from the firm you worked at in the summer. If you didn't receive an offer, that's perfectly fine. I like this resume. I like then that you went and did a clerkship. And then I also like that now you're doing Medicare related work. So this is a very good resume, actually. And the person that's done this resume has done a good job. And I apologize, our next resume review meeting, we will make sure that these PDFs are done better. And actually, if Michael's listening, maybe he can send me the PDFs instead. Well, actually, we have to take the names off as a problem. So I guess we do put them in this. But yeah, so I like that. This is a good resume. So I like the military stuff. I think this is fine. I don't know. Yeah, and I'm actually fine with this description here. And I'm fine with this. I'm fine with the clerkship. I don't know, you need to say during the COVID So just think about how necessary all this stuff is. Most law clerks, like I said, do the same stuff. And then, yeah, but this is a good resume, especially if you want to do anything related to Medicare operations and so forth. This is perfectly fine. If you were trying to do just general commercial litigation or something, then you would probably want to talk more about, not use words like Medicare and stuff in the resume, but this is a good resume. There's no, this resume will, whoever's resume this is will get a job. Everything's being done. And you can compare it to some of these other resumes we've seen, which I actually commend anyone that sent their resume in, because a lot of these resumes do have issues. And so you can see the difference between some of the ones we looked at so far and this particular resume, just in terms of the focus. And I can look at this resume and say, this person could do Medicare work. They've got a lot of history of having good jobs. They've done litigation. They can do Medicare litigation, and they would get a job. And wow, look at this. And they're also have all this leadership experience in the Navy, and then they are the Navy and have good things going on. And then same thing with this person. You can look at this resume after this is cleaned up and say, wow, this could be a great employment attorney. But what everyone here is doing, and I hope you guys can see what's going on, is most people in their resumes are putting things on their resume that detracts from the main message of what they. Okay, this person graduated in 2018 and says they're a certified and experienced mediator. I don't know that a couple years out of law school, you can be a really good mediator. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying that may not be trying to have bravado and stuff. When even most older attorneys, by the way, even the ones that are 30, 40 years out, they always de-emphasize their achievements a lot of times. But this stuff, by the way, the bar admissions and certifications, you don't need to call a bar admission. Just obviously you're admitted to the bar. You should have that on there. You worked for 4 months at Axiom. I suppose you can put that on there. I don't know. That basically means that you were a contract attorney and couldn't get a job for some reason. But now you have this job with the mayor, which is awesome. I think that this is very good experience. And even though this experience after you graduated, I have no problem with it. I think it's okay to put it on there and start with that. You did for 5 months. Again, not sure. I don't know. Saying it's associated with your law school, I don't know. I guess that's okay. Jackson Corporate Law Office. So a lot of these things that you did while you were in law school are probably okay to put on there, but I like this experience right here. I don't know what you want to do, if you want to work in another government office or something. But again, you want to put people off the scent. If what you want to do is work in a government office, then you need to give people the idea that's really what you want to do. And again, a lot of these descriptions and stuff aren't that necessary. And this actually is not a bad resume. I like this. The bar admissions and stuff should just go at the end. You don't need to put November. You can just put 2018, which is great. That means you passed the bar right away. It's perfect. I don't know what all this stuff is, but if you want to be a trial attorney, then that's probably good. But no, I don't have any idea what this is. It detracts from everything. I also I don't know if you want to put your minor in paralegal studies and management. If you put your major in paralegal studies, it makes it look like you want to be a paralegal and you would just go to. I just don't think that's a good idea. You want to look like an attorney because you're an attorney. So anything that says something different is not a good idea. You're underselling yourself. Just put Bachelor of Science and then the date. You don't need to put what the degree is. And then you can just say you were pre-law or paralegal, or if they ask, I don't know. But you have to be honest, but I wouldn't really get too far into it. Anything that National Transactional Law Meet, FINRA, Securities Dispute Resolution Triathlon, like this is a very strong resume for doing policy, doing things inside of the company. But a lot of the stuff, anything that detracts from the message of what you want to look like you're doing is never a good idea. So you just need to be very careful with that. I like this as a government resume. There's a lot of things I like about it. But then now here you're doing corporate, then you're doing compliance, you're doing trademark. Just you can't have all this stuff going on there. Having lots of different types of experience, then now here you're doing collections, having all this different types of experience, people think it's a benefit. Like, it's great that I got experience doing this stuff. That's for you. It's not for the employers, because the employers are not going to say, oh, we're going to hire this person for a trademark job because they did trademark 4 jobs ago for 2 weeks. I mean, they don't care. What it makes it look like is you're not focused. And so people want to hire people that have focus. And that's one of the biggest resume things you guys can learn is people, firms, organizations, and others want more than anything. You have to have focus. And so anything you do that detracts from that is going to hurt you. And this resume is a good resume, but it's bouncing all over. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so this is actually an interesting resume. This is resumes I look at all day. This is a good resume, and there's a lot of very good things about it. It's copied from a PDF. This particular person is working at a very good firm. Again, the colors, you need to be careful about that. You don't really need to say professional work experience. Again, any less is always better with resumes because you make the eyes work less hard. And this person has been at this particular firm for well, looks like a couple of years, which is great. Or a year or 20 year. But anyway, this is a good firm. The millions would be like then. So just make sure you guys always use responded. Looks at responded. And it's just you have to be extremely careful with this stuff. If you get busted and someone sees this in an interview, like this kind of mistake, I mean, it literally could cost you a job. I had an issue once where I was interviewing with a firm and they're disqualified, and I had a date wrong by a month. Like it was something like I worked in a firm, and I put in, and look at that, suits involving. This is just unacceptable. So I'm hoping communications. Wow. And so everyone needs to make sure that they do a good job of that. So this particular person has gotten a great job, and I'm not even sure this is the real firm. I may have just put this in here as a filler, but this is a person, they graduated in 2007. So everything's done correctly here. Into that, I don't like the colors, the Supreme Court, and I guess it's not easy to get admitted to the Supreme Court, isn't that? Easiest thing. And publications. Yeah, this is and so you can see here additional training. That's interesting, like how this person did that. So I like that. And I think this is the way you do this. Instead of listing all these other things you've done, this person did a very good job putting this at the end. And then also these publications and academic work. Like I look at this resume and I know exactly who this person is. I can tell this person went to college, they worked very hard, they did well, they went to law school. Then they got out of law school and they got a job, and then they went into the Marines, it looks like, which is admirable, and that's great. And I think that this resume should be toned down in terms of all the experience in the Marines or the Marines, the Navy. But I think that you don't need all this information. But very few resumes, by the way, are people that are in, and again, there's rules about when you spell out numbers and opposed to when you say them. And here you can see that again. You need to make sure you're running your things through, you're proofing things, because that can really get you. And I'm assuming that a lot of these errors are because this just didn't translate when we cut and pasted the PDF. But this is a great resume. I don't really have a lot of problems with it. I think that you want to tone down all this military stuff. Most military resumes are exceptionally difficult to read because there's so much information. But this is very interesting. And so what probably happened at this firm is someone that saw this resume come and picked it up because they liked all this experience and gave the person a chance. And the person had worked in, the last firm was in Omaha, and now they're in New York City. There's a lot of great things about this resume. And what I like about it also is there's a real pattern of upward mobility. And this person clearly probably could have was an associate and then decided to go and get involved in the military because they were passionate about it. So this is a very positive resume. There's a lot of very good things about it. A lot of people may not feel strong like the military, but it's at the same time it got someone's attention. And it's very difficult to transition from the military to a major law firm, especially when your last experience was in a small law firm. And this person's on the way up, and they went and got a Master's of Law at a better school. They did very well as an undergrad. I like this resume. So this person's motivated. They've shown focus. They've shown the ability to stick with something in terms of their work in Marines and so forth. And so this is a good resume. And they're doing pretty much litigation and criminal related stuff. So there's a lot of focus and a lot of motivation. Whatever this person does, it looks like they commit to, which is good. So I like this. And then Trial Lawyers College, this person tries hard, they're committed. There's just a lot of things you can tell from the resume. Okay, this looks like another interesting resume. Okay, so this resume, by the way, is typically when I see a military resume, by the way, I think they're horrible. But this one, I would probably dumb down a lot of this experience, but at the same time, there's a lot of good things about it. Okay, Rhode Island Supreme Court person graduated in 2020. Good. Okay. Member of the LGBT Alliance. No, transferred from Hawaii Pacific University. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about this today. And the whole idea is diversity and diversity, affiliations, and all that sort of thing. And this is this sort of stuff. Anything to do with affiliations means the race, religion, race, religion, politics, what else? Oh, and I don't know, sex, maybe, I don't know, sex or sexual orientation, whatever. All of these things are signs of affiliation. So I don't have a problem with any type of affiliation, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter to me what your politics are. It doesn't matter what your religion is, what your race is, sexual orientation, how you feel about any of this. And I've learned long ago that it's better not to have any opinion really than get involved in this stuff. So my job is to give people jobs. What I do know is every time I read the news that people are fighting about one or the other things. So people are always fighting about that stuff. And I do know that the people want to advance people of other races, and I do know that they want to have religious diversity, but I do know that certain people, if you bring that to their attention, are going to immediately find reasons, disability is another one. All I know, and I'm not even going to talk about any of these specifically, but I do know that when people have diversity and when they don't put that stuff on the resume, they're more likely, in my experience, and much more likely to get interviews and to get hired when no one's making an issue out of it, unless it is an issue. So I think that this stuff you need to be very careful about. I don't think someone should put down anything to do with a lot of the stuff on their resume because it offends people, get offended. Catholics used to be offended by Protestants, and Protestants used to be offended by Catholics. And there's just in Judaism, there's different branches of Judaism. Conservative Jews are offended by very liberal Jews, or very conservative, or very Orthodox. So it's just being careful with this stuff is just something I would recommend. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. I'm certainly pro-diversity. I've written books about it and the problems and how to integrate, but you have to be careful about that stuff. Because the problem is if a lot of people's experience, most of the country now is very open to people from different backgrounds, and they want to have people in different backgrounds. But the problem is when you make an issue out of that, if someone's reviewing your resume that's uncomfortable with that diversity, then that's a problem. And you want to get in and because of your achievement and people liking you, and they'll be able to understand if you're diverse right away. But you don't want to make an issue out of it up front is what I'm trying to say. And that's my advice. I'm telling you what works, what I've seen work versus what doesn't. It doesn't mean I'm anti-diversity or anything like that. It just means I would be careful. Okay, so this particular resume, let's see. So digital law clerk for the Rhode Island Supreme Court, which is very impressive. And I like this description. I also like this description. I think this is good. And I don't know what FM Global is. This person was a litigation intern and graduated in 2020. So typically, a lot of times, you don't want to have as much description about this sort of thing a lot of times as you may have, unless you want to work doing something related to insurance or whatever you're doing. So maybe just saying you're a litigation intern and then saying you were a writing fellow is probably enough. This is a good description, but you probably don't want to do a lot there. Same thing here. You probably don't need as much description. And then same thing here as well. And then let's see here. And then law clerk. Okay, that's fine. Massachusetts Office of Disability. Now let's see. Okay. I don't know. I would be careful about that as well. Like a lot of that experience, I would be careful about this. Okay. So this is about diversity and inclusivity, which is fine. But again, the problem is when the law firm is hiring people, this person is an advocate, which is good. And it looks like here they were an advocate here, like they like to help and they like to get involved in helping people and doing positive things. And this person's also an athlete, which is cool, and likes outside. And so you can get a real sense of this person based on the things that they're talking about. But the problem is a lot of times the job of an attorney is when you go into a law firm, like you have to take the side. You may one day have to defend, if you're taking a job and I don't know what kind of work you want to do, but if you're taking a job inside of a law firm, you may have to defend companies accused of discrimination, and you may not want that type of job, or you may have to accuse. So when you start putting all this stuff in there, you start taking sides with this sort of thing, which is fine, but you have to be very careful about anything that kind of advertises your political and your beliefs. And there's nothing wrong with any of this. These are all very positive things, but you just need to be careful in terms of the type of law firm you want to work in based on that, because that will come across as is something that will either get you included or not included. So everyone has to be careful. So what's ironic about all this is you're trying to be included in everything, but you may have things and you're trying to include other people, but you have to be careful about what kind of message your resumes are sending, because the idea is that, again, I talked about this earlier, is law firms want people that can be managed. And so what they're very nervous about, and they want people that can do the job long term. So you can definitely do most litigation jobs, but can you be managed means, are you going to be looking, what's going to happen when you get in a law firm? Are you going to want to do it long term? Are you going to want to stay there? And then is everyone that looks at your resume going to like you? And you have to be careful about that. Looking like you want to do something long term is important. Well, a lot of times, and I'm not saying that everything I'm saying is fair. For example, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, like a lot of very famous people that graduated from law school, great law schools, didn't work in law firms because, frankly, both of those two people probably wouldn't have been happy and may not have been even accepted in a law firm because of Barack Obama's interest in community organizing and doing all those things, and Bill Clinton's same interest. So you just have to choose your battles. And if you want to work in a law firm, your resume has to come across as someone that looks like that and looks the part. And again, things are changing. They're not always going to be like that, but that's been my experience, and it's still valuable. It's still that way today. Okay, let's see. Highly skilled bilingual professional with 7 years of experience providing effective legal support. Okay, so what happens a lot of times with resumes is that people will want to put a summary at the top, and they will have someone write the resumes for them professionally, and a lot of times they'll put this sort of stuff up here. And this is something that people do in the corporate world a lot of times, and isn't really necessary for a resume that you may be trying to do. And this licensure is fine, but I would put this at the end right here. And then American Bar Association, active from member 2021, International Associate. Again, you don't need that. This is all just kind of fluff. Okay. Associates, transactions. Okay, so just this sort of thing is fine. Analyze and asses. That's probably me. Okay, and then so this is actually a good resume for what you're trying to do. I think that right here you're doing a certain type of work, which is this, and now you're doing something a little bit different. So you want to be probably a little bit careful about having things that are competing. So most of the time when someone's looking at your resume, they're going to want to see something that is related to what you're doing right now. So a lot of this other stuff probably isn't going to be that helpful. Mexico, okay. Yeah, so again, another foreign resume. But I would, if you're trying to work in the United States, I would emphasize your US experience. And then once you get admitted I don't know why you'd be getting admitted in California if you're working in Miami, but that's just, but it's a good resume. And there's definitely a market for the type of work that you do. And I even know people that do the kind of work you do. So I do think you shouldn't have too much of a problem getting a job if you look for something very aggressive. Okay, this is a good resume. So let's see here. Okay, I like all that. Study abroad. Okay, the study abroad stuff, you're certainly welcome to put it on there. But typically study abroad it's not something that always gets law firms excited. It just shows you had the money to travel internationally and go learn somewhere else. And it's not necessarily that great. The Public Service Award is probably good. I think that magna cum laude would go first. That's really the most important thing. And then some of these this other stuff like the Legislative and Policy Analyst Clinic, these are okay and they're not great, but this is fine. Okay, I like all this. And again, this public interest, this volunteer stuff. And again, I think this volunteering stuff's great. I'm not putting it down at all. And I certainly spend time on my free time volunteering. And there's actually a great site called Volunteer Match where you can go find things to do, whether or not you want to work in a hospice or help kids and things. And these are all good, but you don't want to detract too much from the message of that you're a good worker for a law firm. So this person worked in a medical malpractice firm, and this is a great resume, and you've got an offer. If you want to work in a medical malpractice firm your next summer, or when you graduate, or then you can. If you don't, I would just take off if you worked in the medical malpractice group. With your performance in law school, with your having gone to Berkeley and everything, and everything else that's going on here, you should have no problem getting a good job. One of the things I like about this resume is that everything is very short. So you can see here that this person has done just one line, small one line descriptions of what they did in the summers and so forth, and then their jobs. They don't go into a lot of detail about it, and that's good. And the job of an attorney is to be very direct and to communicate things in a way that doesn't confuse people and makes it very easy for people to understand what's going on. And so that is great. So this is a good resume. This person will get jobs. Compared to this resume, by the way, it's just difficult to understand because it's like Mexico and all these different things. And then this resume, you can see here where you have all these lines of things describing the experience. And ironically, and I'm not trying to be rude here, this person did okay in school, but this person again is, magna cum laude and so forth. And the way that they're the best students and the best lawyers are able to communicate succinctly and directly, especially with their resumes. And you can see here also my nothing's lighting up. Nothing in terms of my grammar, nothing's lighting up on this resume. So this is a good resume. There's nothing really that this needs. I like this person. I'm a GED tutor. A lot of times people there's nothing on here that shows you anything about this person's politics, their anything. This is who they are. And this makes it look like this person could show up at your firm and do the job well and be managed and all that sort of thing. So that's good. Okay, let's see. Bowie State University, minor in criminal justice. This is not a legal resume. I apologize. Okay, so this particular resume is of a senior that's been in-house. So this looks also, there's good things about it and there's things that aren't good. So a lot of times, so what older attorneys always do is they take off their graduation date, which is fine. You can do that or not. And honestly, like if you put down you graduated from law school in 1969 or something, then it probably would hurt you. And I'm not saying that it would hurt me, but a lot of employers would be turned off by it, but I think this is fine. This person is obviously licensed to practice law in Wisconsin. For those of you that don't know, if you go to law school in Wisconsin, you're automatically admitted in Wisconsin, so that's fine. There's no reason to put down that you know how to use Zoom or Dropbox, which again, for older people like us, that's probably an achievement, but you don't need to put it down. And conversational Spanish is probably not even really that necessary, but I guess you can put that if you want. Okay, this resume is something that has been done professionally, probably by an outside service. It may have been done by my guess is that this person was sent to the Gunderson Tri Hospital and clinics. They sent them there to a professional resume company or something. I don't know. These sort of statements, core competencies and things, these are made a lot of times because people assume that there's going to be a search engine, someone is going to be searching for these terms using automated software and so forth. And to some extent that's true, but at the same time, it's only for the largest companies and so forth. So all these things that the person is saying here this is really an in-house resume. It's not a law firm resume. And again, I do law firm placements. All these things here, from my standpoint, I wouldn't put all this here. A lot of work goes into this, and I'm not angry about it, or I'm not saying it's bad, but honestly, this is an HR resume. This is great. I don't know that talking about how you found someone stealing it's probably pretty scary to let people read that. And yeah, this is good. This is a good HR resume. I don't know if this is a legal resume in a lot of respects, but it's a very good resume for an HR person. And it actually may be a good resume for in-house too. It's just there's some issues with it for 2014 to 17 professional counsel. Yeah, so this person's been in-house a lot. So I like this resume. I don't have any issues with it. But it's more of it. I think that in terms of this resume, it's a very good HR resume, and it could actually be a good resume for a law firm job, for an in-house job as well. I don't think it would be a good resume for a job in a law firm. This is this is a foreign resume again. I am going to, I think I've made a lot of comments about foreign resumes already, so I think I'm gonna maybe move on a little bit from this. The idea, if you're trying to make a resume that's US based, I think the people that have foreign resumes, I would recommend that you concentrate on what I'm talking about with the US resumes, because your goal really is to take them out of the format that people are doing here with foreign resume that you may have been taught is useful with your resume, and put them into an American format. This is another great resume. There's a lot of things been done very well with this. This person, I love the description of what the person did in law school. I don't know that saying they have a paralegal certificate is really necessary. I think it's okay. Like a lot of these, like when the problem with when you start putting a lot of this stuff on your resume, and again, I'm certainly not taking sides here by any stretch of the imagination, but I like this. I'll talk about some of this other stuff in a little bit. I like this stuff here. The summer associate job you should basically combine it up here. So you would say September, so you would basically put your summer associate jobs here and then take this out. And you don't need to really talk about what you did as a summer associate. And then you would just put this out. This is a good resume, by the way. There's a lot of great things about this. And then put that here, and then you don't need to put this there. And then you would so you don't have 2 lines about that. You were a legal intern for 3 months law school. I mean, that's probably okay. Okay, yeah, I think that's probably okay. I'm not sure. And then seeing that you did that, I don't have a problem with that. Finnegan, Hosfeld. I might just put, you were a paralegal you might just put down litigation paralegal. I think it's probably okay. You were a paralegal at 3 very good firms. So I would say combine them, but I think it's probably okay. And I would just put, I don't know how much information you need to put. Clearly, you were probably doing it in your practice area. Yeah, I think that's probably okay. I don't know that you need a lot of description there, any at all. Now you're doing litigation. And then your school, you did great. I like that. And then Georgetown Law School, is that okay? So this stuff here, a lot of times, like I've been in lots of discussions with people throughout the years about bringing in things about rape or violence in their resumes, and it's really up to you. And it's actually very impressive that you have these outside interests and are interested in it. The problem is these are things that can, and I'm not saying do, but I'm saying they can make certain people in certain firms uncomfortable. And so your job is really to try to get a job, and not necessarily. And this person, by the way, looks like you're trying to move to California or maybe interested in California. So that's great to put that on there. I don't even need to put it on the top, but I think that's fine. And you can see here that the person didn't even put their other stuff. But these things are you have to be careful about them and how you handle them. Now, no one's going to say that to you but me, but you have to be very, very careful. So everyone's motivated comes from life from different standpoints and from different experiences and things. But you have to decide, this is a trade-off. You are going to, with this information on here, you may scare off some people, but it may be important to you because it's how you define yourself. And so I'm not telling you what to do, but certain things on a resume will scare people off. Everything else in this resume is insane. It's great. And this is actually good too. It's going to get you into the right people. I love that you've been doing this since 2006, and you can commit to things. And there's just so many good things about your resume. You've committed to the legal profession. I do think it's okay to leave the paralegal certificate on there, but I would probably put it under Georgetown. I wouldn't emphasize as part of this something separate, because then it just makes it look like you wanted to be a paralegal, but I would be careful about that. But other than that, everything's very good. But again, you have to, and I think if you ask all these questions, like, can this person be managed? Obviously they can. They've been in the same job for 5 years, but you have to be careful. Anything you guys do that puts anything to do with things that can make people uncomfortable, and that would go for putting some far right organization on there, or talking about that you like hunting. Some people are going to be appalled by people that hunt, and it's going to make them uncomfortable. So you just have to be careful about all this sort of thing. Okay, so this person here, this is another example. So here we have the Federalist Society, and this is the same type of thing. So The Federalist Society on your resume is a good thing if you want to get a job in a lot of places in the country, but probably not San Francisco or New York or other places. Now, it's not going to kill you, but again, this is something where you're taking a risk. So you're taking a risk having that on there because it can potentially hurt you. Now, I don't know what a 3.5 means at your law school, but if that puts you in the top 5% or 10%, then put it. If it doesn't, I don't think you need to put it on there. I know you're proud of it. Same thing here. I don't know what that does, if it's good or not. And then it looks like you were on the dean's list, not every semester. So I would probably, just because you're on the dean's list 3 times the whole time you're in an undergraduate, it's probably not something you need. And then these bar admissions, I would put them, again, this is one I would take off. Right here, just because you don't necessarily need that there. And then just looking at this real case, Court of Common Pleas, Washington County. Okay, one of the things that I would say too that's important. So there's a lot of really good things about this resume, but when you start using words like, and this is something for all you guys, when you start using words like DUIs, convictions, that puts you in the realm of being a criminal type of attorney. Mortgage foreclosure, that puts you in the realm of doing that debt collection. So a lot of these are consumer facing practice areas. And so you just need to be very careful about using a lot of these words in your resume. If you use words like DUIs and convictions and debt collection and mortgage foreclosure, like that says to people that you're more of a consumer facing attorney as opposed to someone that could work in a big law firm or work for a big company. So you just need to be careful about that. Now, these can also help you if that's what you want to do. I'm not taking sides either way, but I'm saying you have to be careful. And then here, if this is Social Security and that's what you want to do, then you talk about that. If not, I would just talk about appeals and that sort of thing. So just be careful because here you're doing this type of work and here you were doing this type of work. And you weren't there very long. You're only there 5 months. And I guess you were working and someone's going to have questions like, how is this person working as a senior law clerk at the same time they were an attorney at Ludden & Associates? So I would just be careful about that. And then again, transactional work and court filings, that's great. So that's fine. This needs to come off. You absolutely cannot talk about being a dog sitter on your resume if you want to get a job at a law firm. You just shouldn't be doing that. So I would be very careful about that. Again, I'm talking about the Federal Society. Again, it's going to put you in, and maybe, because of where you're living, and that's a great thing to have. I don't know. And then I don't know where patent infringement came from, but that doesn't have anything to do with anything that you've been able to do. And now we see German, which means you're very conservative and you speak German, which I guess it's probably okay in Pennsylvania, maybe. I don't know, but I'm joking around here. But you can tell the kind of person you are, and you can probably be very conservative and stuff, which is good, probably depending on the area of the country you're in. But anybody that when you paint yourself into a corner like that, there's always going to be results. And so this resume is painting yourself into a corner. This one is too, and to some extent. So you guys, when you don't have the stuff off, these things are painting you in a corner: debt collection, mortgage foreclosure, DUIs, and then Social Security. So you have to be anything. And then now you're talking about patent infringement, which I had no idea where that came from. And dog sitter, that shows why are you going after people to do dog sitting when you're practicing law? You just have to be very careful. People want to hire people that take their career seriously. And I personally think it sounds like a lot of fun doing this dog stuff. I would love to do it, but it's just, you have to be careful about what that says about your resume. Okay, so when you start seeing these senior resumes of people that are government attorneys, or not government attorneys, in-house attorneys, a lot of times they will put all of the stuff in here. And I don't know why it says relationships building. It should be probably relationship. But these are, again, I don't like this stuff. I know that a lot of people do, but I don't think that this is necessary, because what it does is it shows that there's a little bit too much thought going in your resume. And you feel like you need to walk people down and show them that you've done all these things. When you've been to a big company like L Brands, which is very big, this is a very good resume. This person is pretty much a superstar in terms of their work. I don't think this is necessary, but I have absolutely no problems with this resume for an in-house job. There's so many good things about it. I mean, I could go into them, but the first one is that the person got an MBA. Then they went to law school. They've been in the Midwest. They have a lot of employment stability. So they started at Honda in 2008. Then they moved up to be the general counsel of manufacturing, which is a huge job. I mean, it's a very important job there. And then they moved over to L Brands and they've continually been advancing there. So this is an exceptional resume. I don't really have anything to offer except taking this stuff off. This person you're probably not even that senior actually. No, this person's not that senior. Actually, no, they have this additional experience. So I liked what they did here. They put down their additional experience. This is actually very smart. So what's so good about this resume and why this resume is an exceptional resume is because what this person's done is they're showing you their expertise and their focus. So their focus is working in-house and starting at a lower level and then moving up. Look at that, at these huge companies. That's just awesome. And same thing here, starting out at a lower level, then moving up in these very significant American companies. And I'm sorry, Honda's obviously not American, but it's Marysville. It's where it is. So great resume, nothing wrong with it at all. And then they've taken their other experience and instead of clouding up the resume and making it 3 or 4 pages, everyone knows what being an associate of Voorhees means. I don't know that I would put down labor and employment group, but that's up to them. And then law clerk, Supreme Court of Ohio. And then they even didn't put their earlier experience at Honda either. So they probably worked at Honda since, who knows, maybe since the 1990s. But they just made it very short. So there's a lot of great things. And I'll show you some other things too, which I like about this resume. Here, I don't know if this is part of it. This is part of it. So this person is diverse, I think, probably. But you have to dig to find it. It's not like it's not in your face. They're just saying, this is what I do. And they might even speak Spanish, who knows? But they're not putting all the stuff. They're just saying, I'm interested in this. I'm providing leadership, hosting things, and that's it. So this is communicating diversity, but it's also, everything's very short. And it's also showing upward mobility and everything that's good about this person. So this is a very well-seasoned, smart, good resume, and it shows a lot of maturity and a lot of really good things. And this person, the only thing that will hurt this person from getting a job is probably if they're looking for a job. I doubt they are, but if they were, it would just be probably their age, maybe, because there's a little bit of employment discrimination against older people and location. I'm sure even the location, this person can get plenty of jobs. Great resume. Okay, so let's see here. So nice work, whoever did this resume. And I even like the smaller fonts with all these affiliations. That's cool. All right, so next resume, Marquette University School of Law, candidate for Juris Doctorate. Okay, so you guys need to take off your grade point unless it's awesome. For a lot of people, like I remember when I was graduating from high school, there was a guy that barely graduated and he was so excited when he got his diploma, he walked up and was crying. And meanwhile, other people were just upset that they were like still on the wait list, University of Michigan or whatever. It's just, you have to pick your battles. But if you didn't do really super well in law school, then just don't put anything on it. No one cares about your courses, so you take all that off. Again, here's someone painting themselves into a corner. You want to call yourself conservative, that's fine, but you have to realize that there's going to be consequences. Now, there may not be consequences in Milwaukee. I don't know, actually, is Milwaukee, I don't know, but you have to be careful with all this. Participating in moot courts, probably not that big of a deal. And then recruiting, being a member of the Hispanic Law Students Association, you're welcome to put that on there, but I don't know most of the stuff. I don't know. And I attended lectures on the Section 230 of the digital age. And these are not things that, for the most part, are going to help you. So it's honestly enough to say you went to law school. Sometimes people don't realize that. Because when you're putting all this other stuff on here, all you have in the end is, I don't know, that recruiting members to be part of the Hispanic Law Students Association, that is a leadership activity. But you can see how this person handled it here. They put all this stuff at the bottom and they didn't make a big deal. And they wouldn't talk about it. They wouldn't say they were, I don't know, but these things all seem very important right now because you're doing it right now. But honestly, what I think is the most impressive thing about this resume is that you're also going to get an MBA, for God's sake. I mean, just awesome. So you're getting that in addition to your law degree. Much more impressive than being a member of the moot court. Varsity baseball team catcher, wow. Team captain, 4 years, that's amazing. So these are all like Like, why not draw attention to the things that are the most amazing about you and then not other things? I think if I read this, I would say this guy's leadership is he was in charge of recruitment for this Law Students Association. That's great. I don't know if your real leadership is being the catcher of your law firm, a team captain, and all this stuff is great. And the legal intern. I would try to make these one line, each of these one line, and same thing here. And I don't know, being a volunteer for visas or something is really that. And then you're fluent in Spanish. Great. That's just showing that if you're trying to show diversity, then that shows it right there. So this is a good resume. I like it. And you're still working at that firm. So that's good too. You've been there a long time. I don't understand how you're working. You're graduating in 2021, but you're working for a firm in Miami. I guess you could do it via Zoom. But this is a good resume. I like it. I don't think it needs a lot of work. I think you need to, again, be careful about what you're emphasizing. I don't think being a member of any student association, the Federal Society is going to turn some people off, but it's nothing to be that concerned about. Okay, the next one, legal counsel consultant, providing leadership. Okay, again, these kind of things I think belong off. Okay, so a couple of things so sometimes people take time off and there's really nothing wrong with that. Now here you were an attorney for 11 years, which is a long time. And then it looks like that you moved with Weiner to this firm. So that's great. So honestly, it looks like you may have been working with the same person for 12, you worked with the same person for 12 years. And then here's Stein again. So maybe you worked with Stein too. So you might have worked with these people for a long time, like 15 years. So this is a good resume. This shows a lot of employment stability. Now, if you took time off and were a freelance attorney, that's okay. But were you really working during that time? And it's okay if you weren't. So sometimes I recommend it's better off to take this off because it makes it almost look like you couldn't find a job, you're looking for a job. And so you can cover this in the cover letter, and you can just say, I took time off due to my kid or a sick child or whatever the reason was, and then go into that. But this is a great resume. You have great experience, and I don't know, talking about doing Excel reports, is that important? The issue here is that a lot of what you were doing, it looks like, is organizing things and keeping things organized. And you can see here that this software is trying to get you to proofread things a lot more. But so you need to figure out what it is. And you don't tell people things like you demonstrated leadership. You basically, these are the kind of lines that people have, that are written by professional resume writers that take your money and try to make your stuff look good. And I'm not saying they don't do a good job, because they do most of the time, but the point is you need to make things a little bit more easy to read and for people that are looking at this. And that would be what I would say. And so try to make these maybe one bullet, and and you're saying controlled in negotiations and thoroughly researched. And so I would try to just maybe make 1 or 2 lines about what you do and what you did, and then allow people to read into it what they want. But you should be able to get a job if you find firms that are doing the work you were doing before, honors college graduate, bar, district courts, all these things. Again, you don't need to put in these district court things. People don't need to see that. And I understand that there's a motion and everything. And then the notary is good. So that's good. So this resume is fine. I don't know about these where you've done the highlights, but other than that, it's pretty good. Okay, let's see here. Registered patent attorney with experience. This is a good resume. This is a great resume, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Registered patent attorney, experience preparing patent engineering software, and over 200 applications, experience working with banners. Yeah. Okay, and you don't need a summary. I don't know why people do that. You're welcome to, but all that stuff really could be covered here. You've been at this firm for 4 years. I would try to shorten this down. If you've done 200 plus patents, people are going to understand that. And again, you were a partner at this firm for a year. The way I would read this, by the way, is I would read this person had a good experience here. They had a pretty good experience here. They didn't have a good experience at this firm when they were partners, so they don't want to say much about it. So for each of these, I would try to put maybe 1 or most 2 bullet points. But this is a great resume. There's nothing wrong with this. And if this person is having a hard time getting a job, it's just you haven't been marketed properly and a member of the bars, but everything is good about this. And you can see here too, these senior attorneys there's no reason to put all these student organizations. And this person, for all you might have been editor of the law review, but they're not throwing it on there. So this is a good resume. I like this resume. I don't have any problems with it at all, except for the length of all these. I think this resume ideally should be one page. Anybody that looks at this and is a patent attorney and is hiring a patent attorney will know that you know what you're doing and you're definitely employable. The only thing that I would recommend is if you do have some certain type of experience, like related to patent law, that you make sure that focus is really on there and reflected. But this is a great resume. There's nothing problematical about it at all. Yeah. Okay, I want to take a break let's take a break for the next 4 minutes since we've been doing this for a couple hours. And so I'll be back in about 4 to 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and do some more resumes. And I'm excited about this next resume because it looks great. Okay, so this is interesting, this resume, and there's some actually issues with it. So one of the things is that, and there's definitely I think that a lot of people, when you're working on your resume, you're bringing in your belief in terms of what you believe is important. So people show what they believe is important or what they think is important in their resumes. And so what that means essentially is someone that believes that being an entrepreneur is important will show that. Someone that believes that social justice, diversity, even family. So all of these things, you need to understand that your audition need to work in a law firm in most cases. And that's what your resume is. And so your resume needs to show what the law firm wants, which means no trouble and just, do the job, be acceptable to all types of clients, able to take multiple sides of an issue. Law firms typically want different things and they also want stability. So this particular resume, when you look at what this person's talking about here, they say they've been a proven rainmaker across 15 countries and 25 plus cities. And then they also say they founded and built 3 startup businesses. So this person's and then they say, well, my family put down roots 40 plus years ago, where I was raised and educated. So this person's very proud of the fact that they're part of an old American family, probably. And then they founded a nonprofit mental wellness project. Typically if someone's founding a mental wellness project, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but it means they may be dealing with mental wellness in their family or something. I don't know. And then they said it disappeared, and they just went to Hong Kong all of a sudden. And it said you closed because the building lease failed, that ended, so that's why it closed, not because of anything you did. Okay, so this person, so I'm not saying this person's done a lot of things. And part of the issue when you go to good schools, and this person went to Harvard and Columbia, is that you want that achievement and how things look to others and so forth is important. And that's what happens when you go to competitive schools like Harvard and Columbia, Harvard especially, because you're surrounded with all these people that talk about all these great things they're doing. And so this person, all the summary up here is basically the person's saying, I've done all these amazing things, I'm amazing. Now, I didn't just work at Simpson Thacher, it's a top 10 globally, which everyone knows. And I ran a jiu-jitsu gym, but I didn't fail at the building end. So all this stuff is about how am I viewed by others? And really, with all these sorts of things, you need to let your experience speak for itself, because what every law firm wants is they want all these things. They want to know if you can do the job, can you be managed, will you do the job long term? If I'm asking myself, will this person do the job long term, and I look at all this, I'm like, wow, this person they've started 3 businesses. I don't think they're going to do the job long term. They've done product management. What? Why would I hire someone to do that? Wait, they're doing mental wellness and training mindfulness coaches. They want to work in a law firm. They only work for 2 years in a law firm. I don't understand. So these are the kind of wait, they were working in a senior, so all these things are detracting from the overall message. And I think this person, there's nothing wrong with this resume, by the way. This is a good resume. But the problem is, if this person wants to be an attorney in a law firm, then all this stuff just can't. It's got to be changed out. And I personally think that this is a great resume for someone that wants. But none of this stuff, SEO strategy and website design, none of this stuff has to do anything with working in a law firm. Frankly, if this person wants to work in a law firm, and everything here like that this one's doing is really, they're almost saying, look at me. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, because I know, there's just nothing wrong with this, but you don't need to point out to people that you're a success and then show them why you're a success by sending people to websites and telling what other people is it's good. It's just none of these things matter. So I think this person looks extremely interesting. I would love to be part of a networking group with them and talk to them and learn from them. But I don't think, and then you wrote an article called How Do I Survive as an M&A Associate in this top firm? But then you didn't. You were only there for a year or 2 years. So it's just all this stuff is, you don't need to send people to these things. And the big thing is, though, is very competitive people that go to the best schools and things. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's very New York. It's you compare yourself to others and how you look in comparison to others. If you want to get a job, by the way, you can get a job probably in a law firm, but you need to probably take off all of this, most of the stuff. It just needs to come off. And then this is all good. And once all this is off, then you look like a focused attorney, and that's enough. And then you can just put down other between these dates, did these various other things. Now I want to return to the practice of law. It actually might work. You haven't been gone that long. You've been gone for 12 years. It's not very long, or 11 years. But all these things that you're doing on here are going to detract from the message. And the big thing is that everyone here needs to understand it. And this is, I hope you guys can see this. This is more common with people that go to good schools and are very achievement oriented than people that don't. And you get into good schools by looking like the best and by being the best, by doing things that are outrageous and that look good, and in addition to being good. The first college intern ever hired, like all these things, the first, the best, the early, all these things are things that, that good schools like, and that people that are good at self-promotion, it helps them get into good schools. But this sort of thinking isn't necessary to get into a law firm. It's just this kind of stuff. If you've been sitting in an office for years and just pounding out work for clients, seeing all this stuff is not going to impress you. So this is what I would like to see if you want to get a job in a law firm. But this is what you need to do, because otherwise there's just no focus to it. You can put in a couple lines. This person did up here, way up here, about what they did, other things that they did, additional experience, and then go lead with that resume, and then people will find you interesting. But if you want to work for someone else, it's got to be about the focus. Okay, so I love that resume. There's a lot of lessons there. Co-found and operate Renegade Paintball. Okay, all right, let's see here. So summer qualifications. Okay, so this person is a document review attorney. There's nothing, you don't need to put all this experience. I'm assuming that what you want to do is continue to be a document review attorney, but you were doing legal aid. Okay, and then staff attorney, Buildings Law Center, University of Michigan Law School. Okay, so this is a good resume for someone that wants to be maybe an advocate for children, I would say. There's a lot of things going on here. What I would recommend, you need to put the locations of these places you've worked in. You need to, the dates, I would say, would be important. It looks like the dates are there. And then I like all this stuff with families and things. So if it was me, I would probably emphasize that stuff. I would de-emphasize to the extent you can. I would just write something like contract attorney or something instead of document review, because that's going to make you look like a document review attorney. You don't want to be put into that role. And then I would actually just say, I don't know that you need to say layoff there. You could probably put here, and just remember that with a lot of the stuff, less is more. So I don't know what you'd want to have, but I would recommend just putting one bullet that discusses what you do and not all this stuff here. I think that would be more helpful for you. And I don't know what the bullet is. I'm just showing you how this should look. And then if you were a volunteer attorney or something, just cleaning all this up and making the resume much shorter. And I don't know November of what. Saying you're a Michigan real estate attorney is probably a lot of the stuff you don't want to detract from the main message. So what I'm trying to do with all these resumes, the last one we looked at, all this stuff was going on that had nothing to do with, basically the summary is I'm all over the place. And that may be why you're not getting the job. And no one cares, by the way. No one cares. These law firms do not care that you have done all these things. They don't care. They just need people to do the work. That's it. And if you put things on there that look like you're not going to do the work or stick around, they're not going to like it. The same thing here. You don't need to put all this information here. You just need to basically point people in one direction. And you will get a job if you do that. But again, a lot of these kind of things, if you just did one thing that wasn't that big of a deal when you were in college or law school, that's okay. But you don't need to really draw attention to it. You just want to be very careful about making sure people think you're focused and not listing too much on there. And then a good strategy when you had a lot of different jobs from a short period of time is just to put down what they were. Now you're saying here that you're not putting your graduation dates on there. That's okay, but typically the only reason to do that is if you've been out of school a long time. And I typically, unless you're very old, I don't know that it's a good idea to do that. Okay, that's the next one. Juris Doctor candidate. Okay, so one semester on the dean's list is not something you should put on your resume. And then top 30%, not necessarily something I'd recommend, but it's fine. You need to be careful with. I'm not saying not to put it on there, but the problem with a lot of attorneys is a lot of attorneys weren't in fraternities. I actually think they're a good thing because I think they make people, I was doing a podcast about them yesterday, where they came up, and I think they make people focused on, they make them understand how to get along in different types of groups. But at the same time, a lot of people have preconceptions that are bad places and that sort of thing. I'm really don't know. That's going to have to be up to you if you want to put that on your resume. I also don't know what TeamSpeak is. Sometimes people have different opinions of fraternities. It's another thing that will rub people the wrong way. It's up to you what you want to do. It could help you with certain places. It could not help you with others. It's going to be up to you to leave it on or not. You're obviously a leader. That's good. People will like that. You'll probably be very good at whatever firm you go to and develop business and everything, which is good. I like that as well. I don't really know what to tell you. The LexisNexis is probably good. An NAACP member, I guess that's okay. If you did next generation leadership, that's cool. I like all this stuff. Heroes Against Harvey, about Houston, National Black Film Festival, that's all fine. I think, let's see here. And I like how a good resume. And there's a lot of good things about it. Let's see, editor lecturers. Recommend with these jobs you've had, just trying to make them, again, like one line is probably enough, and that's good. I like this resume. I think I don't know, observing legal proceedings and stuff is necessarily a good idea. And then here you put down, yeah, just the same thing here, just one line and that sort of thing. So if you do that, I think you'll be in pretty good shape. You don't want to tell people you understand how to use LexisNexis. That's fine. Putting down these organizations is fine too. I don't really have a problem with that. I think that's cool. Comicpalooza. That gives people something to talk about. I don't know if you went to the National Black Film Festival, but you're a volunteer. Okay, that's great. So that's fine. Yeah, you wouldn't want to just put down that you went to some festival, but if you're doing something with it and you've done it for several years, and just try to put the dates. And I don't know what Heroes Against Harvey is, but you might want to say what that is. And then I like the Super Bowl volunteer committee and stuff. That gives people something to talk about as well. So this is a great resume. I think you should have not really too much trouble finding a job. I think that the GPA on there, I'm a little bit ambivalent about that. If that's going to result in you getting an honor or something at graduation, then that's good too. That's a good resume. Okay, this does not belong at the top. That belongs at the bottom for the next resume. Serviceable passion. Okay, so all this stuff you don't want to say. So everything you guys are putting in your summaries should be communicated by your resume. And a lot of this too, you have to be careful about how you phrase things. So this particular person do you want to call yourself? So here you were doing, wow, I mean, this is great. So this person, this is actually a very good resume. If you want to be for example, if you want to be a family law attorney, which it looks like you might, this is a very good resume for that. And almost what I would do, honestly, is if you want to get a family law job, and you can, and I don't ever advise people not to take things off their resume and not talk about their current employer, but this isn't really relevant to being a family law attorney. So this I would, you need to, all this stuff needs to be shortened. It's just too much information, and the best attorneys do not need to write all this stuff. So you just want to basically just get it down. You need to, really shorten this resume up. And here, if you're a compliance review attorney, I think you're better off probably, you have to think about what titles you use are and what you're talking about. But people need to look at your resume and they need to see some sort of focus. And the focus needs to be direct. So they want to know what exactly it is you're doing. They want to understand they want to see some sort of consistency, because right now, like when you look at this Ascent Red Tech, it throws people off because all of a sudden it looks like you're doing something different than you were doing before. And when you were doing this job for a year and 3 months, and then this other one for over a year. So it's just actually paralegal. I'll put down paralegal there. And I wouldn't even say anything about it. I would just say prepared litigation pleadings and direct to sit there. And I had paralegal. Okay, so you were paralegal after you graduated. I see. Okay, I don't understand that, but that's okay. And then when was the bar admissions? Oh, it's September 19th. Okay, so that's okay. So it looks like it just took a while to graduate to pass the bar, or you didn't take the bar until later. But anything you can do not to draw a lot of attention to that would be good. Just don't put down the dates. I would just put member Missouri State Bar and leave it at that. And I don't. Yeah, I would just be a little careful about that. How you do that. Okay, so again, take off these dates. I would take off ABA, then I would take off all this. And so a lot of this stuff, by the way, is just you need to put people on a course, and people need to understand who you are. So here it looks like you had pretty good experience. And if you were a family law attorney and I saw your resume and you were in Missouri and I saw this, I would say this is someone I'd want to represent because there's a lot of demand for that. Now that I see this, that you moved to Chicago, it makes it a little difficult because I'm like, I don't know why they're doing this anymore. So it's just something to think about, like the focus. Everyone's resume needs a focus. Okay, so 9 years of diverse experience. Okay, so again, all this stuff here really needs to come off. It's not helping anyone. I don't know what this employer is, and it may just because the things aren't translating correctly, but I don't know what this employer is. Let's see here. Okay, maybe you're working for Secretary of Labor. Okay, I don't know. So I would take a close look at that, like how that's working. This is great. The Reed Law Firm. So you were there for 3 years. Again, it looks like you're doing all these different sorts of things. If you emphasize this, by the way, this resume here, everybody has this. If you have 3 different practice areas, you can apply to a firm and just talk about your family law experience in your cover letter. That's one option in your resume. So if you wanted to get a family law position, which is very marketable right now, you could do that. If you're just trying to get a civil litigation job, then you can go, you just take all this out. But anything you do that paints yourself into one corner of doing one type of work is going to hurt you. So you need to be careful about that. And then here you're doing family law too. I think this is a great family law resume. There's a lot of demand right now for family law. And this looks like what this is. It looks like things got cut up here. Somehow this ended up down there. So that's great. United States Department of Labor. So that's great. So now this person is an employment attorney. I would try to, in my resume, everything I did here, I would try to make it look more like I'm doing anything related to employment work and just leave it at that. That's how I would do that. I would, if you want to stay in employment, because here you were doing or talk about litigation or something along those lines. And then I would also, if I could, make these a little bit shorter, these descriptions. But this is a good resume. You should also get a position, and your admissions, you can just clean those up. But I don't think this person will have too much trouble getting something and even transitioning back to a law firm. But it looks like you have a pretty good job now. So I don't know why I necessarily want to do that, but that's up to you. But yeah, shorten up these descriptions. Let's see, Florida Coastal School of Law, 2011, representative cases. Okay, so 2011. So this particular resume, this looks like this one starts here. Okay, so the bar admissions, remember, go on the bottom. I would not put, if you graduated in 2011, you didn't get admitted in 2012, I would just put the bar, people, when you do this, when you put down the dates like this, if you didn't get your bar admission like the same year many times that you graduated, it raises questions. Did you not want to practice law? Did you take the bar? So just don't even allow people to think that. All you do is you just put in the law school and that year. These bar admissions go on the bottom. No, they don't go on the top. And then let's see here. Okay, honors, pro bono honors, no. Probably not necessary. Visiting student, no, not necessary. It's not really saying much there. Representative cases, okay. Good. And, this may actually be the resume up here. Okay, good. All right. And I don't know that the representative cases belong on there. I would take those off probably. There's no reason to have those on there. Okay, here's the next resume. So professional experience, attorney, outstanding experience in cybersecurity, national security, insider threats, litigation. So, okay, so just again, these professional things here are probably not that necessary. A lot of times, if you have top security or top secret security clearance, law firms like seeing that because you're able to, you're trustworthy because they do background checks and so forth. So you can leave that and other, and then let's see, national security and cyber law branch. Wow. So this is a good resume. This person should have been around a long time, but they should get a job. Yeah, this is a good resume. I don't really have any issues with it. The only issue with it is this person's been working for the government a long time. It can be difficult to transition into the government, from the government to a law firm. But I think this is an exceptional resume. I don't really have any problems with it. I don't know that you need to have the professional summary at the top. I would try to get this down to 1 or 2 bullet points. It looks like now like you're getting into data privacy and that sort of thing. And so this is a good resume. Yeah, there's a lot of things, sorry, that I like about it. I don't really have any problems with it. And you should hopefully be able to get a job with a good law firm with it. It's just that you've been out of school for a while, but everything's exceptional with it. Academics are exceptional. The stability is exceptional. There's nothing really that needs work. I don't think it's very self-explanatory. The only thing I would do is be to shorten it up. So this is a good resume. Even winner of the mock trial or the barristers, Dean's List 3 to 6 semesters. I think I don't know that you want to put 3 to 6 semesters on there. Just even at this point, I would probably just take off a lot of the stuff. I don't even know what order the barristers is. I would just take off a lot of the stuff here. And then it looks like you did really well in college. You got a full scholarship too. That's great. And then these different, and then just say New Jersey and Florida. Yeah, this is a nice resume. So, and these honors and awards are all good. Looks very professional. Looks really good. Yeah, let's see. Dedicated professional with 8 years of experience. Okay, again, you guys, all these things need to come off. They don't. I don't think they serve most people. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but it just detracts from the main message and it makes it look like you're trying too hard. If you notice, like a lot of the bar admission is something that if you're an attorney, is just assumed. You don't want to ever put your bar admission on there. People also don't like seeing. You can see here, this is 2014. And the person graduated from law school in 2012. Regardless of why there's a 2-year gap, you just don't want to have that. You don't want to show that. So just take off that and put your bar admissions at the end. I think a lot of people are very proud of the bar. So you can see here that this particular attorney that was a paralegal for several years and put down right at the very top, September 19th, the current bar admission because they graduated in 2015. So now they want everyone to know they passed the bar. Or took the bar, and maybe they hadn't taken it before. And so the bar needs to come really towards the bottom. And don't put the dates. Just let people assume it. Don't put GPAs that are not really high on your resume. And I would combine these. I would just say JD 2012, LLM Corporate Law 2013. And just combine these into one. And then I don't think there's a need to put GPAs that aren't really good. I don't think study abroad is on there. Most of the stuff just has to come off. And it's just the reason is you've been out of law school for a long time. And I don't even know about the campus. I don't know if it's Western Michigan. I think Auburn Hills is in Detroit area. So that would be Eastern Michigan. I guess it's okay to have gone to another campus. Again, you speak Japanese, put that on your resume, but don't talk about all this international study. It's just the thing is a lot of people can't afford to go overseas and study and stuff. And so they resent it. So it's just something, and it's not anything I care about, but you need to be careful. Okay, let's see here. Professional experience. Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services. I don't know what these things are here. These bar associations. Unless it's something that means something. Hot yoga, that's cool. Actually did a hot yoga class in Roy or something like that. I was in Michigan. Okay, so this particular resume here, this person doesn't have a lot of legal experience. And having been a legal intern is probably not, these legal internships probably aren't going to help very much. So you want to put those towards the bottom or not even really list them at all because they were so long ago. I guess you could list them. You pretty much want to talk about your existing and then independent contractor. February 17th to July 2019. You were working so I don't know that you probably don't, 2 jobs at the same time. So what I would do is I would basically try to lead with your current job. You can put down, this is more, I don't know what this is, so the Change Me Restoration Legal Group. But a lot of the stuff that's going on here is you have criminal stuff, then you have immigration, you have all these volunteer things you've done, and then you have all these different affiliations. And so people need to be guided towards one thing. And I don't know, what you're doing here. You've been at the same job for a good length of time, like 8 years, which is great. So my advice would be to try to somehow transition to doing legal related work where you're at the Arab Center for Community and Economic Social Service. It's going to be very difficult for you to transition to a legal job, even having done all this volunteer work, because you're doing something that's unrelated to what you're doing. So you either get someone to hire you as a first year attorney somewhere, or you do something there. But you're basically, it's very common, by the way, for people to get law degrees and not necessarily practice law. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And frankly, many people have more employment stability, are much happier and so forth doing that. And you've stuck with it long enough that you can have a very hard time getting people to take a chance on you. Now, there's one thing I would recommend to you specifically, and this is something that I don't always say, but I think that if you are interested in starting your own firm, that you would be a perfect person to potentially do that. You can do consumer bankruptcies, you can also do immigration. And I know tons of attorneys that have started their own firms and had a lot of luck doing that. And especially older attorneys that have been out of school 10 or 15 years. I know younger attorneys that have done it. And if you really want it badly enough, that would be honestly what I would try to do, especially in Detroit. It's a great market to do it in. It's a growing market. There's a demand for lots of different types of legal skills, and you're obviously interested in the practice a lot. But the problem is, if someone were to hire you, they would be hiring someone that never has really practiced law and a law firm, and all their jobs have been unrelated to it. Now, I understand you were doing this independent contractor stuff, so I'm not saying that you haven't done work at that and you tried to stay involved, but I honestly think that you'll need to do this on your own or find someone either hire you. Now, another option would be to work in a small law firm or a small company as their in-house counsel and really throw yourself into it that way, and you could do well. So that would be my advice. I like your resume. I like the employment stability. I like the drive and your interest in the practice of law and trying to do it. But the longer you are not actually working full-time in a law firm, the harder things get. Okay, this resume, let's see. Dean's List 3 semesters, no. So again, I don't like that. I think if you're ranked 17 out of 24, I would think that you have been Dean's List every semester. Just anything that draws attention to not being Dean's List all semesters is fine. Best Performance Award for all these classes, that's great. Summa cum laude, wow. So this is great. Everything's good about, and you don't need to underline and. Maybe we did that, I don't know. But and this again, the licensure goes at the end. One of the things you'll notice is when you review attorneys' resumes and again, this is not to be rude or mean or anything, but if someone goes to, I don't know, Harvard Law School or Michigan or something, they almost never they list their law school, but it's always at the end somewhere, and it's never, or not their law school, the fact that they passed the bar, or they're admitted to the bar. And if they didn't go to a top law school, it's always at the top. It's a big deal passing the bar, obviously, and people from top law schools certainly don't pass the bar all the time, and they may want to put it at the top too. And so their biggest achievement is passing the bar. But it's assumed that if you're an attorney, you have the bar. So you don't want to really even talk about it. And if people see you're an attorney in wherever this city is, then they know that you passed the bar. So you don't really need to put it there. You can put it there, but you don't need to go into a lot of detail. So this is a good resume. The education's good. The licensure belongs at the bottom. This is a real estate attorney. This person is definitely employable. Shouldn't have too much trouble getting a position. I would combine these. So I would say you're a supervising attorney and an attorney. So I would just call yourself an attorney from these dates and the supervising attorney to those dates in the same thing. So you don't have two things there. And I don't even know that it's necessary to call yourself a supervising attorney versus an attorney. You could just put a line in there or something. That's how I would do that. And then, okay, so then you're a real estate attorney here, and then these other jobs weren't real estate, and these were other things. And these are a lot of jobs. So for you, one of the things is that you haven't lasted very long in a lot. You've had a lot of positions, and certainly not being judgmental here. But what I would recommend doing is I would recommend putting other experience and then saying something along the lines of between, when did you graduate? Between September 13 and May of 2018 was an associate, other North or South Carolina law firms, practicing business and or whatever, practicing business and estate planning related work, something along those lines. Because when you start having all these jobs on here, you start making yourself, and you're not really at this point, been this job you've been at for a couple of years, and you're doing well. But you don't want to look like you're jumping around too much, and so you need to be careful. And then again, all of these different types of experience you've had, probably law firms aren't going to want to see too much of that. They're going to want to, they're not going to want to see all the different types of experience. So be careful with that. And just maybe a couple of lines about the fact that you worked at these other firms. And then if you were a paralegal in the summers of 2011 and 12, and you graduated in 2013, I don't know if I would call myself, I would just say you worked at these firms. Don't call yourself a paralegal. Oh, I see, summer associate or whatever, and then say paralegal. And this is actually a lot of stability there. So that's great. So they actually liked you a lot there. And I would just say something about other experience. And I would say during the summers of first law school, something along those lines, and just try to make this all shorter, because you want people to want to hire you and not believe you're going to stick around. And like one of the things I said earlier was that a law firm wants to know that you'll do the job long term. That's very important to be able to look like that on paper. So anything that shows you can do the job long term is helpful. So this person graduated from law school. Juris Doctorate. Okay. That's not okay. Okay, so this person's been out for a while. Well, not that long. Let's see here. So bank examiner, solo attorney. So with a solo attorney, what I would recommend doing many times is most of your work, I wouldn't go into a lot of detail. I would take all this somehow and put all this information in the bottom somehow down here, and just say other things that you've done, and then just say basically that you've been doing this type of work you've been having your own your own firm doing this sort of thing. It says here your objective is to work in the financial industry, government, or research. I think that's probably a good fit. If these are the things you want to do, then you need to basically have a separate resume for the financial industry, a separate resume for government jobs, and a separate resume for research-related jobs. And then in terms of your experience you're talking about, I would just say you have a solo practice and you do a variety of things, including personal injury, unemployment, and maybe if you do some corporate work or whatever, doing something along those lines and talking about that. So that's how I would handle that. This is a good resume. I like that it's short. I like that there's not a lot of fluff here, but this objective should come off, and then you need to come up with an argument about why you would be a good attorney to work in a company, for example, if you want to work in the financial industry or government or research. And then probably if you do that, you're not going to want to have a lot of information about the fact you're doing criminal law if you're trying to work in the financial industry. So people need to understand why there's that big switch all of a sudden, and that's how I would handle that. So this is a good resume, but it needs to be more focused. And then people, if you've been working for the past 13 years in your own firm, people are going to need to understand why this sudden change. Because if you graduated in 1972, that means you're in your 60s or 70s. Why this sudden change? And you need to probably come up with some good explanations for that. Okay, so international law, executive wealth planner. Okay, international taxation, estate planning, trust service. Yeah, this is actually a very good resume for a lot of reasons. I don't like the stuff at the top, but at the same time, this is a complex type of law, and this almost reads, to be honest with you, it's very interesting. I wouldn't say number one investment mortgage. I would just say I'm in charge of developing an for tax efficient wealth transfers, responsible. Yeah, this is interesting. So this stuff here, all these things you're talking about, being an international lawyer and having all these experiences, I would figure out the best way to integrate everything that you're saying up here into your actual resume. So that would be how I would do that. So I would try to get all that information in your resume, and then people don't necessarily need to know what's the number one investment company and all this sort of stuff. You don't need to tell people that. Knowing Penn Life, everyone knows what Penn Mutual or the company is. So I wouldn't. Just again, the stuff where you spell things out and it's important, but this is very good. I just would, and I don't know, you want to call it achievements, saying just that you developed these strategies and so forth is probably okay. One of the things I like about what you did up here, and I typically have been attacking people for not attacking, but saying it's not a good idea, is because this is actually gives people the idea that you can do all this stuff in kind of foreign countries and work. And so I'm a little bit mixed. I would usually say to take this out. And most of the people that are doing this are just kind of normal attorneys or normal corporate attorneys or litigators and that sort of thing. But you actually have a very interesting background. And I like it. I don't know why, but it explains what you do a little better. And other stuff at the top, international lawyer with experience in MBA. You don't need to tell people that. They'll read it in your resume. Something about all this other stuff is probably useful. Okay, but then so suddenly here you're doing strategy. Oh, I see you're doing this, and now you're doing business development, and then you were sales director. This is an interesting resume. There's a lot of very good things about it. And again, it's very common. We're seeing a lot of foreign resumes today, which is fine, but it needs to have a focus to it. And a lot of times you don't want to brag on your resume. You want to basically allow people to reach conclusions. So you can see here, number one investment brokerage, 7 to 40% estate. All these sort of things are fine, but you need to make sure that you're doing what you can to simplify all this information and make things very easy for people to read and really telling a consistent story. So when I see this, I'm saying, when people use the words like strategy or strategy, what that suggests to me, and what I'm just telling you what US people think, what I think that this person's just basically going to sit down and give me a lot of ideas and just BS me and take my money. That's what strategy means to me. And that's every time I hear someone say that, or consultant, that's a lot of times what happens. Not always, but a lot of times. And so you need to have some consistency in your resume, and the resume needs to really be focused in terms of describing what you're doing. Because if you're doing business development, no one's going to hire you to be a trust and estate attorney. And you can get a job as a trust and estate attorney. You can get a job in a law firm in the U.S. as a trust and estate attorney, especially in this market. But the resume has to be easy to read, and it has to if you just said wealth planning, business planning, and taking this crap off, driving innovation, people hate this crap. You can't say stuff like that. Family business. If you just talk about what you do, and then you just basically listed where you worked and said you did those things, with a couple of lines, then you're going to get interviews. But if people have to read through this, I'm just getting dizzy looking at it, and I know what you do and I like it, but you want to look very focused. And then you start talking about all these memberships and all this stuff. So this is a good resume, but again, everybody that thinks they need to list everything they're doing, all their achievements, all the different things that have happened. You don't. You just need to, and no one cares about where this person was born either. This is, I'm going to skip past this one, and I'll just make a couple comments. This is another foreign resume. Everybody that's a foreign resume, you should really look at what I'm saying about US-based resumes and look at those seriously. Okay, so this is someone that Florida bar. Let's see here. Bar memberships. Okay, this resume is a different resume. Okay, so this resume, FINRA, senior investigator, good. U.S. Department of Justice. This is a good resume. I don't have any issues with this. Let's see here, Wisconsin Law Journal. I want to make sure that whatever the rules are for underlining and so forth, the military service, that's great. Yeah, so this particular, I don't know what a CICI attorney is, but this looks like a good resume. I would shorten these up. I like that I don't think you need the GPA on there. A lot of times if you did something between 2002 before you were a sergeant in the military or the Wisconsin National Guard, I would probably put that somewhere else, maybe towards the end, but this is a good resume. It's a good government resume. I like that it's short. I like that. I think it's very clean and easy to read, and it's a good resume. So I don't really have any major issues with this one. Let's see here. So this particular one, let me make sure it's not underlined. So this is someone that put their bar stuff on top. So the bar stuff on top always comes, you can see that a lot when the law school. So I would, you just put down your bar number, just put down you're a member of the bar and not that you're a member of this district court. This is a 2009 graduate, so I would put this down towards the bottom. And then this person's been working for the Permanent Family since 2014, which is great. I like the published cases. I would probably put that in others. I would, before that, they worked at this firm. And then summer of 2010, they were a volunteer attorney. I think that's okay. I don't need to know if you need to say you're a volunteer attorney. I would look into that. Volunteer just means you couldn't get a job, which is okay. That wasn't a great market back then either, but I would be careful about that. And then you were an associate law clerk. So this is good. This is a good resume. Then you were in the Peace Corps. I like that. Taking this stuff off, I would recommend doing that. And otherwise, yeah, this is a great resume. I think there's a lot of good things about this particular resume. Okay, let's see here. This person is another foreign resume, LLM. Wow, this is a lot of transactions. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so this person is now a legal intern. They were for several months. September 2020. This transaction sheet, I actually like the transaction sheet. I think that this should go on a separate page. So a lot of times attorneys do transaction sheets, and I think it's a good idea for you to do a transaction sheet. And I think it's especially a good idea many times if you're a foreign attorney to do them, but also any corporate attorney, it's always a good idea to do transaction sheets. And then a lot of times these bar things are fine. The big question though, anytime someone's interviewing a foreign attorney, is they're always going to be someone that's they're going to be concerned about, are they going to stay if they come and all those sorts of things. My advice really, if you have a resume that's this is, especially if you've done a lot of corporate work, and is to try to apply to smaller corporate firms. And really you have to show up many times in person and go in and just show yourself and say, I'm a corporate attorney, I've got all this experience, I can do this, I've taken the bar, I'm taking the bar, and get jobs that way. It's very difficult. There are some firms in New York that do take chances and have programs for foreign attorneys, but it's not easy to get into them. It's not the easiest thing. I like this resume, and I think this person looks like a great attorney. It's very difficult for you to transition into everything. The issue here is you're doing different type of work. So I would try to, if you were doing, your resume needs to be focused on a practice area, whether that's antitrust or something. I would love it to be corporate. It looks like you did a lot of things here. So however you can focus that would be very helpful. It's very difficult to break into a new market like the US, especially, I'm assuming you might be in New York City. Looks like you are. That's very difficult. But take a look at what we're talking about also the American resumes, because that can be very helpful as well. I don't know that I like the stuff about the evening division. Nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't know that people always need to see that. And maybe you do have to put that. I don't know what the rule is. Let's see. Budget director. Okay, so a lot of these societies and things, I think a lot of times are unnecessary. So it just clogs things up. People care about your grades to some extent, but they don't necessarily care about all these activities. Now, if you're editor-in-chief of something, that's great, but I don't know. Again, I think a lot of these things can come off. Let's see here, reviewed Noble Merit Scholarship. I don't know what this stuff is. Or if you're on a first place team, I don't know if that's necessary. So just be very careful about listing a lot of these things. And then again, the GPA, I don't know if the GPA puts you in the top of your class, but if it doesn't, there's no reason to draw attention to it. Same thing with everything you did in college. Like, you want to draw attention to things that look really good, but not necessarily anything that points to any form of mediocrity. If you're applying for jobs in DC, that's great, but you don't want to list Virginia if you're applying for jobs in Virginia. It's just, and if you're applying for jobs in Virginia, then it's great that you're studying for the July bar exam, but if you're applying for jobs in DC, there's no reason to list you're applying for Virginia. I guess a lot of firms in Virginia do like it. Let's see here. Okay, this is good. I like this. I like this experience. Graduate year 2018. Okay. Oh, I see. So you were a program coordinator while you were in law school. That's why you did the evening division. So maybe you want to leave that in there since you were working. Yeah. So I like this resume. I don't really have any issues with it. I think that a lot of this stuff needs to be cleaned up. So I think you have a lot of experience here for someone that's been out of school for since 2018. Law clerks. I would try to, I think these are okay. But again, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing has consistency. But consistency means that you don't want to have things that are too inconsistent in terms of the number of the jobs and stuff. Are those all relating to what you're trying to do? So sometimes there's just so many jobs on here that it's going to get confusing to people. So I would try to somehow consolidate all this and then see what you can do with that. And then the volunteer work, I think that's interesting too, but I don't know if you need it. And a lot of this stuff, just to the extent you can clean this up and just really figure out a way to make it a lot less information on there, the better. It's just, there's just too much going on and people want to see a lot more consistency. So I would love it if this showed me like a practice area where I could really push you into if I was trying to recruit you, or would it be government contracts? What would it be? And then once you decide on that, what practice area that is, then you can push people towards that. And then these languages are good and that's fine. Is this even an attorney? Okay, so it's distinguished attorney and CPA. Okay, yeah, so you let other people call you distinguished. And so this, a lot of times when you see stuff like this is a sign that someone else has written the resume. And this person says they're senior counsel at Plunkett Cooney, which is a great law firm in Detroit. And then these great accounting firms. But I would take all this out. Anytime you say you're some sort of expert and stuff, it's just people like, well, you think you're an expert? Let me show you. And then it's just, you have to. And then there's a lot of things here that are they're just different practice areas. We've got real estate, then you've got risk mitigation, regulatory compliance, employment law, like it's just corporate law, litigation. So these are pretty much every practice area. And you can't be with this many practice areas, it's very difficult to be. So this is something where it looks like an outside resume company might help with that to some extent. So this is great. I love this firm. This person is doing a lot of stuff. They're a corporate attorney, which is awesome. And it looks like they were a corporate and real estate attorney here at Plunkett Cooney while they were at the same firm. Oh no, I see they were at Plunkett Cooney doing this stuff. And then so this is a great, and Sterling Bank, which is an awesome bank. Yeah, Price Fund. This is strong attorneys. I really don't have any problems with this resume. I think it's a very good resume. The thing that's nice about this is you can see here that the person was an associate or something to this firm, and then they came back and were made a partner after being at another firm, and then they were working at a big company where they had a lot of stability and were doing great things. So this person probably is not going to have much problem getting a job. The question is what kind of employer they want to work with. If they want to work in-house or in a law firm. This is a good resume. I don't know really what to say about it. Looks like they may have transferred from Michigan State to Madonna University, which is they should just put a date for that, and then take out this stuff about being on the dean's list and stuff. It's a great school. Detroit, I don't know if it exists anymore, Merged or something. And a lot of this stuff too, there's just way too much information here. The trademark filings and this kind of stuff, no one needs to see all that. It's just, you just need to, and I don't know why this is so confidential, but that's fine. Put that on there unless there's some reason not to. And then all this stuff is good. So the only thing I would recommend is this resume seems to be going in a bunch of different directions. It seems to be like a real estate resume. Then at one point it also seems to be a corporate resume. And you want to make sure that whatever you do, you do your best to make it look like a very focused resume in one practice area. And that's how I would handle that. So some of the stuff, like you don't need to say you're admitted to the American Bar Association. You don't need to say you're a moot court judge or you're in law school. You don't need to say, LSAT, that's good. I mean, I don't know when robotics thing is good. I don't know, speaker. So some of the stuff is probably not that necessary, but everything here is very strong. So there's no reason to really push it up that much. You frankly also don't look, actually, no, I don't know how long you were at Sterling Trust, but try to be focused. If it was me, I would try to go more towards being, again, you talk about trademark registrations and stuff again. I would really try to be more focused in terms of your practice areas, like real estate or corporate or something, as opposed to doing all these different things with litigation. And maybe you do want to do all these things and just be like a very experienced all around in-house attorney, which looks like you are, or law firm attorney too. But I think you're going to be better off if it looks more focused. It's just my opinion. It's a nice resume. Okay, so let's see here. This person again, all this stuff here. In this, many times when people are putting all this information at the top of their resume, it's really a sign. It's just sending people in so many different directions, like Afghan Constitution, and then legal research, U.S. Constitution. Like it just sends people in too many directions. And I would really like to see you guys try to get rid of all this stuff on the top of resumes. That's going to be very helpful. And then this person says contract attorney, provide legal consultation. Okay. And then you don't need to people need to stop putting these and so forth on here, but let's see, provide legal consultation, work with the U.S. Department of Health and Services. Okay. 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 That's fine. And then legal consulting services. So if you've been doing this to 10,000 to the present, I don't know that I would list the contract attorney up there because I think that it looks much more impressive just to say you've been working here. And then I don't know that you need to say, I don't know the best way of doing that, but if you've been employed with them on an ongoing basis from time to time, I don't know. But you're better off if you can massage this somehow in an ethical way to make it look like you've had employment stability there. That would be great. And it looks like you may be doing some stuff related to Afghanistan, and that may be what your career has been. And it is very interesting and very good grades, Phi Beta Kappa. And this is a good resume. This is something to do. So this is a attorney that is very involved in Afghanistan. It looks and probably things with the war and constitutions and putting all sorts of things together related to that. And so this is a very specific type of resume. In my opinion, just without going too much into this and giving you too much of advice, but I don't know that this is an appropriate resume by any stretch of the imagination for working in a law firm. I think that your skill is going to be either working for the government with this sort of thing, and it looks like you did work in some law schools or teaching law school. I would think that if you clean this resume up and make it look a certain way, that this would be an excellent resume for a law school, especially with your academic performance and athletics and publications. This is just a perfect law school resume. I don't really have anything more to say about this resume other than I like it for what it is, but you haven't spent a lot of time in law firms and the things you've been doing. It's an academic type resume more so, I think, and also involves, for all I know, this person may be actually in the CIA or something. It reads like it, to be honest with you, but this is how these kind of resumes look many times. So I think that you should continue with whatever you're doing, maybe, and or maybe another branch of the government, if you're with the government or something along those lines, I think would probably be the right thing. But right now it does a CIA resume, which I'm not trying to be rude, but I know people that have done that and it's how it reads. But it's a good resume. Yeah. Okay, let's move on with that one. This next one is, let's see, this is a good resume. Let's see, winner, finalist. I don't know that the 2018, putting down you were a finalist, it's maybe okay. I don't know what that's about. And then I like that you were a president of the International Law Society. That's interesting. Relevant coursework, that's not relevant. Okay, and then President Taekwondo volunteer. Okay, volunteer. Okay, I don't know if that's necessary to put down here to the President Taekwondo Association. Okay, this I would basically, everybody needs to, this is a good resume. This person is definitely employable and it's a good resume. There's a lot of good things about it. And what's good about it is if you can compare it to other resumes that we've looked at in the past, this resume it's very clear about what this person does. So you basically want to focus whatever type of litigation you want to do. You don't want to put admitted in these different things because you don't need that. And then you want to be focused on the type of litigation you're doing. Here you have a bunch of different things you're saying. So you're almost better off saying associate litigation attorney and going with that. And then the same thing here with shorting this stuff down. So everything here, these sorts of things, the shorter they are, the better. But this is a good resume. The reason it's good is because the schools are fine, the experience is fine, and the person speaks different languages. And I don't know that you want to have anything here about working in Mexico. I mean, you can when you graduate, 2017. You can, but other than that, this is a good resume. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and you will get a job. You just have to make sure if you want another job, you can definitely get one. Just make sure this stuff here is shortened, and all these things are shortened, and then that will be good. Okay, skilled litigator and negotiator, close millions of dollars in bankruptcy cases, transactions. Okay, great. Because this person has their own firm. Okay. Normally, I wouldn't like all this stuff here, but this is interesting. I don't know what this person's trying to do exactly. So I don't know if I don't know if you're trying to move your practice to another firm or what you're trying to do exactly. But all the stuff, the education's great, the real estate investment thing is great, the senior counsel, let's see here, the adjunct professor, like all this stuff is very impressive. Oh, it looks okay. So I see. But you've had your own firm for 18 years. So I don't know what you're trying to do now is the only issue. And it looks to me like you're doing a lot of litigation and that you're also a real estate investor. And that's why you went to school to get that degree in real estate investing. If it was me, I don't know what you want to do. If you want to do real estate, then you need to focus your resume on real estate. If you want to do litigation, do that. And then this particular resume should be focused more so on whatever you can do to talk about the amount of business you have and whatever you're bringing. If you just want to do transactional real estate, for example, it doesn't look like that's what you're doing though, but if that's what you wanted to do, then you would need to be focused on that. But it needs to have some sort of focus in terms of your practice here, because here's you're doing bankruptcy, real estate, and commercial litigation. It needs to be focused, and you need to choose a practice area in terms of what you want to do exactly. Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll come back, and I'll be back in probably like 3 to 4 minutes, and then we will finish up the rest of these resumes. All right, let's get back. All right, so this particular resume here, let's see. The next one. I hope this is helping, guys. I know this is a lot of information, but if you learn this stuff, your resumes will be much, much better. Okay. The person is also an attorney. Yeah, foreign attorneys, just take my advice about what I'm doing with kind of US-based attorneys. Having all these memberships and stuff on here, no one in the United States knows what these mean. Sectors, all this stuff needs to come off. And so a lot of people, I'm actually very happy that a lot of foreign attorneys and other people, I think the people that are asking many times for help here are ones that may be having issues sometimes with getting positions. Now, this particular attorney has been at some exceptional law firms, so I don't know that there's really any issues with that. But I think that here, that a lot of this experience really speaks for itself. So I particularly, having worked at Steinray, which is a very good firm, and some of these different firms is very good. And also Greenberg Traurig in Mexico City and so forth. To the extent that this person can, I think that they want to really clean a lot of this up and just be as focused as possible. If you're applying for positions in the U.S., then emphasize that you worked at Steinray. If you're applying for positions in Mexico City, same thing, emphasize where you worked there. And then really, I would, with this type of resume, I probably would have two versions. I would have one that had my U.S. legal experience and other legal experience, and the one that had other types of legal experience. Okay, this person, okay, this same sort of thing should come off. So this all problematical. So a lot of people are independent contractors and things and do that kind of work. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is when you do those sorts of things independently, you're showing you're getting experience, but you're not working in groups. And law firms are groups, and most employers are groups. To the extent you can, you want to talk about maybe some companies you may have worked with. So if you're an independent strategy consultant, I don't know where this was, but none of this really says law firms are looking at this and employers are looking at this and they're saying, does this person have skills we can use? So here you're just saying comparatively research antitrust laws from the background of legal frameworks in the United States and China. I don't know, is that something that law firms are looking for? And then insurance advisor, global services internship in Jerusalem. So the problem is with this resume is there's just a lot of things going on. And then why is this person taking a certified financial planner course? And all legal resumes need to have a focus. And that's the big lesson here, is that a lot of these resumes that I'm seeing today really do lack a lot of focus. And if you lack focus and someone needs to look at your resume and say almost instantly, this is this type of attorney, this is a real estate attorney, this is this type of attorney. And if they don't see that right away, then it's going to hurt you and it doesn't work. So I hope that lesson comes through. It's very important for you to be able to do that with whatever you're doing. You have to be able to show people exactly what you're doing. Okay, actually, this looks like a different resume here, maybe. No. And just all these selected courses, no one cares about the courses you're taking. No one cares about all these courses. No one cares about financial advisor. This person actually looks like this is something they're more interested in than anything. That may be what you'd be good at as a financial advisor here, investment group, and everything to do with investment. So I would, if it was me, I would really beef up this resume and everything that's got to do with the investment stuff and try to get a lot of this stuff off of here because a lot of it is just confusing. There's just too much going on. I think all these courses and everything, people need to look at your resume and know exactly what you are. So there's nothing wrong with having a lot of interest and everything, but you need to be very focused. And even here, it's just you're China and Israel and more different. I don't know. This is fine that you did this international coursework, but I just think that people need to know exactly what you are, what you're doing, and all that sort of thing. And what you want to be. I think you want to be this person wants to be a financial analyst or a financial advisor, and then so just make your resume look like that, and then try to take off things that detract from that. The MOOC court doesn't really talk about that. That has nothing to do with that. So try to make sure that works. Okay, let's see here. So this person, California State Bar member, okay, and then patent bar, okay. Let's see here. So IP attorney, contractor. This is good. So here, this person was a patent attorney for 4 years at a good, well-respected firm, and then also did all this other stuff. So if it was me, so graduated in 2000, I would try to take a lot of this stuff off here and push it down into something else where you would talk about other experience you may have had before law school or something. And then I would try to, since a lot of these jobs were when did you graduate from law school? When you graduated in 2000, I would try to maybe talk about this stuff a little bit differently and then talk about how you did this stuff right when you graduated and then different types of things here. You've worked at a couple good patent firms, and I'm again not sure what you want to do, but everything should read patent. So what I don't, or EIP, and what I don't like is, when I start seeing things about like construction defect and other things going on, that people want to see some sort of consistency, and then being an independent contractor is fine too, but all this stuff needs to somehow be wrapped up in a way where it looks like you're on the track of doing what you want to do. I would like this resume almost much better if we didn't have this stuff here. It was just this, and everything stopped in 2009 or 2009. Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought it was 2018. So this is actually, no, you were at this job for a long time. So I think this person can get a job and another really good in-house job. I would also recommend looking in other parts of the country as opposed to I'm assuming you're just looking in San Francisco. And it's, by the way, for patent attorneys and people with those kind of backgrounds, it's very common to have periods of unemployment and be an independent contractor and so forth. As a matter of fact, almost every patent attorney does it at some point. So it's a little bit different for those of you that are familiar with it in that practice area than other practice areas. So I like this resume. I don't have much problem with it, but I do think you need to apply to a lot more places. And I think you can definitely get a job working in a law firm again if you want, if you apply to enough places, or another company. If you apply to smaller companies or other size companies, you should be able to get something. The problem with San Francisco too, by the way, is there's just it's very difficult when you get older to get a position. There's a lot of age discrimination. So it's just a more difficult market. Okay, so this person got a Juris Doctorate. I would take off your grade point. I think this staff editor stuff's fine. I don't know, being vice president of the Tax Law Society is that big of a deal. Some of these things where people just put on their resume, it's just kind of like fluff. I don't know if the Tax Law Society is really doing a lot, but if it is, maybe that's fine. This is great. This person has a law degree from a great school and then also a finance, an MBA, and just a dean's list, all 10 semesters. Team, a lot of good things. So these are all very important, good things. So the way our minds work is we think private sector legal experience versus other type of legal experience. This is perfectly fine just to call it experience. So I would just take that out. This is a good resume. I don't know, maybe the person hasn't passed the bar yet, which is fine, but I would wait till you're an associate and then put associate there. This person was also at a very good firm. Tarter Krinsky is a great firm. I think this resume is fine. I like the way this has been done. I like the interest and skills. Honestly, I don't really have any problems with this. I think it could be a little bit shorter. It's using past tense here now, so I don't know why that is, but maybe you don't work there anymore, which is fine if that's the case. But this is a good resume. And I don't know why you moved to Florida, admission pending. Okay, so I see. So maybe you didn't pass the bar, maybe work slowed down. I don't know, but that's okay. I would apply to other outside of New York City if it was me. I would try to remove things apply to more bankruptcy firms. I might even apply to a bankruptcy clerkship to get that on my resume. This is a good resume. If you take the right moves, you should be fine and have no problem getting another position, even if the bar was whatever held up for whatever reason. There's no reason to worry about that. This is a good resume. So you can make these things a little bit shorter. If you received an offer from this firm, put down that you did. If you didn't, that's fine too. Just don't say anything. Okay. So you don't say these things. When people say that they're dutiful and respectful of clients, many times that means they're not. So they think they should say that because people told them they're not. But just something to keep in mind. Okay. But this is a good resume, I think, for what you want to do as well. I would, from 2005, this internship, I don't know how relevant that is, or even if you want it on there. It's not really helping you. And then the staff attorney is great. And I think you could probably take a lot of this out. And then some of these other things you can leave on there as well. If you're working as a senior attorney, a Social Security disability attorney, and you're also working as an arbitrator, I don't know if that's a full-time job, but I might put that in saying that you've been an arbitrator, and just to try to take people attention away from that. And this should be wrote because you're not doing that anymore. And then I would maybe try to emphasize Social Security and the kind of work you're doing. And so if everything about this resume talks about Social Security, you'll be in great shape. You can get a Social Security job anywhere in the country. Or a lot of different places. But everything needs to come back to that. And you need to make it look like that as much as you possibly can, or discrimination and that sort of thing that you've got going on down here. And then don't forget to run this through software programs to fix up a lot of this stuff. But that's a good resume. I like it. See here, 2018. Law review. Okay, that's good. So you wrote on the research editor. I don't know that you want to put on the third place brief and things like that. I would be careful about that. You pretty much want to talk about things that are first place or where you're the best, but you never want to emphasize things that aren't the best. Mock trial intramural tournament. Okay, so a lot of people are putting a lot of these societies and stuff and intramural sports, and I would just be very careful about that. And then saying you're on the honor roll once in the spring of 2003 is probably not a good thing. And then coursework and so forth, and pledge educator, not necessary. Other than that, and then I would take off this stuff about concentrations and just be all these things. They are a big deal to you, but honestly, they're not anything that's going to get you in the door. They're gonna, more than anything, they kind of confuse the reader. Okay, so this is a Jackal Law Group. Okay, yeah, there's nothing. This is fine. And if you're admitted to the bar, I would put that on there. I would the additional experience. I like how that's done. Putting that down at the bottom. I think that's awesome how you did that. Frankly, if you also worked in Las Vegas, I would consider maybe taking the bar and working there, because it's much easier to get a job in Las Vegas than it is San Diego, which is one of the most competitive markets in the country. So I would think about that. And then I would try to make sure that your practice area looks very focused there, and just go from there. But you need to get out there and start looking for jobs more. Oh, you admitted to the bar in summer 18. So wow, so you took the bar and passed right away. So that's great. So I would put that right at the bottom, that you're admitted to the bar. I don't know why you haven't been working. Maybe it's just because of the COVID or something, but you definitely need to get out there and start looking for a job much more aggressively. And preferably in markets other than San Diego and Orange County, all over California, and then in different markets as well. San Diego is just an extremely competitive market. We're Chicago School of Law, Illinois, DACA. Okay, so this stuff where you guys put URLs of the places you worked on your resume needs to stop. So people can't do that anymore. You guys need to stop doing that. Let's see here. Okay, so you got a job as a litigator, which is great, considering that you came from Bangladesh and then came over and got this degree. I mean, that's great. You got a JSD. And then an LLM. So that's amazing. So it's very difficult, by the way, for people to come over from foreign countries and actually successfully get into US-based law firms. This sort of thing, you want to make sure. I would take this off, a lot of this information here. It's just fluff, and just talk about the fact that you're a litigant. And then all this is good. This is great. I would, again, like here, like you went to University of Chicago Law School, which is just amazing. And then you got a JSD in 2017. So I would be careful, unless you want to do family law. I would just say you're a legal assistant. Anything that points towards consumer-facing work is going to get you consumer-facing job. And then all this sort of stuff should probably be anything that you did in other parts of the world and so forth. I would probably try to put that in other category. I wouldn't emphasize it at the top of your resume. And the same thing about volunteer. I wouldn't go too much into that. I would try to put that towards the bottom as well. If this resume, by the way, just said University of Illinois Law School and just had TB Robinson Group and talked about what you did there, your resume would be much stronger than with all this other stuff on it. I think it's very strong because I can understand how difficult it must have been to come over from Bangladesh and do all these things you've done and how motivated you are. But you need to basically point people towards, I'm a litigator, boom, that's it. And I do all these motions and I do all this work. And if you do that and nothing more, you will get a job. But if you start confusing people with all these things that aren't related to anything, like if volunteer rivers, I don't know, everything that's going on here, then the readers of this resume get confused and they get overwhelmed and they move on to something that they understand. And so that's how I would handle that. And even this stuff, there's a way to, no one cares that no law firm in frickin' Houston, Texas is going to care that you're admitted to the DACA bar. So you need to somehow figure out how to bury all this stuff in a few lines at the bottom and all your other foreign experience. Say I was a lawyer in there beforehand and leave it at that. Because otherwise it just gets too confusing. And I'm telling you this not because you have no right to be proud of your previous life and experience, but just because if all this said was University of Illinois Law School, TB Robinson, and then you were a summer associate, did something, and then you would be very employable. But having all this other stuff just makes it too difficult. There's too much going on. In regulatory law and policy, no one cares about all this stuff. It's just like you do, but it's just like the employer just wants someone that'll sit down and be easy to hire and do the work. Here we go. All right, so all this stuff here again, the same kind of resume. And I'm really glad that anybody that submitted their resume, this is just awesome because this is very helpful for everyone here. All this stuff here, this is great experience that this person had, and what a nice place to work in Birmingham, Michigan, where I'm from actually. But all this stuff needs to go in a transaction sheet or something that goes at the end. And then obviously you have references. Obviously you're proficient in multiple things, and there's great golf in Detroit. I didn't even know there was a Blue Villas High School. I knew there was Gloucester, and I guess Gloucester closed, and then there was Seaholm or no, Andover. I don't know. But okay, the point is that you need to, all this stuff could go in a transaction sheet, and this is enough information here. And then as a real estate attorney, you should have no problem getting a position in Detroit if you apply to a lot of places. But this is a great resume. What I like about this resume too, by the way, is it's just very simple. Look at all this experience this person's had. They've been working since they graduated from law school in 1995. And compare this resume where all this stuff's going on, or this resume, and the person that graduated in 1995, like we know exactly what this person is. I would be very comfortable walking into this person with any type of real estate deal and giving it to them, or working on giving them some sort of corporate work. And I know they would know how to do it, and I wouldn't have any concerns. And I would know exactly, because I'm from this area of the country, I know what kind of person this person is, but I know I would be very comfortable working with them and giving them work. And so it's what kind of person this is. It's not confusing. When you see this, you're like, what the hell's going on? You've got all these foreign schools and JD's kind of degrees I've never heard of. And it's just, everything needs to look very palatable to the reader. And this is what's so good about this resume. Let's see here. Casa representing commercial. There's a litigator, 3 years. Okay, so this person graduated from law school in 2011, and they went to NYU, which is great. Minor in Hellenic. Sounds like it'd be a fun Hellenic Heritage Association. Oral written Greek. I think that's actually okay. I don't know. I just certainly didn't cross that off. I think that's interesting. Okay, so I like this resume. I don't have any issues with it. I don't know. I don't think you want to say you're a real estate broker. Anything that detracts from you looking like an attorney is not good, unless that helps you close things. I don't think if you graduated from law school in 2011, I don't know that talking about all these things is going to help you. I'm just saying that the document review is going to help you, unless you want a document review job. And then you're employed right now. So I would just put down legal experience, and then everything here is pretty consistent in terms of what you do. And I don't know that you want to say you're property management, or you can say general counsel, property management agent. I think you can say that. But if you make these changes, I think the resume is much stronger. I just think that I think this is great. And I don't think you'll have any problem getting a position if you make these changes. Again, this stuff is, when you show people this stuff, you're saying, can I do the job long term? Can I be managed? Do I want the job? All those sorts of things. And those are problems that you can avoid by not doing that stuff. Okay, let's see here. A couple more. Law Office of Tyler Simpson. Okay, so these are a lot of contract jobs, which is fine. And then this person was a counsel contract in Whittier Law School, December 2000. So a lot of these things here, again, you need to remove those. I would recommend removing these. I don't think, if you've been, for the most part, a contract attorney it's new since 2001, you've had your own practice. So I would just put down that you've had your own practice since 2001, and then it looks like you've had a lot of contract attorney jobs, but you're also a senior associate. So I would say I was a senior associate between these dates at this firm doing insurance defense and coverage and litigation, which is fine, between December 2001. And then I would say between 2004 to, 2005 to 2012, I was a contract attorney. I was an attorney with Alexander Wick. And then I would say and then I would try to do that. I think listing these contract attorney jobs just sends, there's nothing wrong with listing that you're a contract attorney, but it just sends the message that that's what you want to do. And I don't know, I would just say, have also served as a contract attorney to several prominent firms, and then just list some of them. And then instead of putting all that down there, so then your resume looks more like this, which is going to improve it a lot. And then you just put other at the end, and then it's a much stronger resume. Now, the law office of Tyler Simpson since 2001. I don't know, anytime you haven't had a permanent job, I would just put down, and I wouldn't put May 2001 because you graduated in 2000. So I would just, that would be May because you would take the bar. So that's great. So you got admitted right away. So I wouldn't make a big deal out of all these contract jobs. I would actually list them. I wouldn't even list the dates. I would just say I've been a contract attorney, but also served as a contract attorney to several firms while running my own law firm. And that's going to look much stronger. Let's see here. There's a Canadian resume. I don't even know what to make of this. This is I'm going to law school in Canada, so I really don't have much to say about this, unfortunately. I know this is our last resume, but I would, I don't even know, Claire NCA. Yeah, I would maybe talk to an expert in Canadian resumes, I'm assuming, but this is a good resume. There's not much I can do with it at the present. Carriage is going to buy. Wow. That's cool. Okay, well, I am just about done here for the day. There's one thing I did forget to put in here. Can you do the job? Do you want the job? And that was the final thing. If anyone, let me just see if there's any questions that I can answer. Next go. Okay, so I'm going to answer a couple questions here. Let me just see here. I hope people can hear me. Let's see. Okay, okay. Yeah, I appreciate everyone being here today, and if you do make the changes to your resume, we do have these meetings every couple months. I will, notify everyone on this call when we have our next one. And if you submit your new resume, then I would be happy to talk to you about it. There is an article on BCG. It's called, I believe, Things That Attorneys and Law Students Need to Remove for Their Resume Immediately. I would look at that. The big thing that I'm, concerned about with all your resumes that I reviewed today, or the majority of them, is just making sure that you give the readers a clear path to hire you for something. So a lot of these resumes are just listing all these things that people are doing, and there's really no clear path to understanding the type of work that you're doing, and that's difficult. That presents a lot of difficulty, and you need to show people a clear path to the type of work you do, to the type of work you want to do, and all that sort of thing, and not have a lot of extraneous experience on there. Things that aren't really honors, like being part of a society in law school, or things aren't necessary. Listing summaries that aren't necessary. The idea is to communicate things in a very simple and straightforward way. So again, I really did, this resume could be a very good resume if it just had a couple lines that the person was a contract attorney at some prestigious firms. The resume that came above it is an excellent resume if it just if it takes out all this other stuff, because it detracts from what the person really is. And everyone on these calls has really good skills, but what you're doing is you're detracting from it. This resume here is an outstanding resume, and all it needs to do is say that the person's a real estate attorney, doing that, and then talking about a couple other practice areas. And so and then taking all this stuff off. So a lot of these resumes could be really good if you weren't attracting people from it. And so I think the big factor that I'm seeing in a lot of these resumes, a lot of the resumes that we're seeing are like foreign resumes. And I think that's because a lot of people from foreign countries are doing their resumes in the wrong way. And you need to make sure that your resume really is focused and shows people what you're doing. Now, if you like watching resumes being reviewed, and the other thing too is just removing anything that can rub people the wrong way. We saw some examples of the Federalist Society. We saw some examples of different religious organizations and things and just you need to be careful about this, because remember, anything that people are fighting about in society and taking and marching about and mad about, that means that there's two sides to it. And if your resume lands onto someone that's on one side, you've suddenly eliminated a good portion of the people that are looking at your resume. So you want to be as neutral as you possibly can. There's nothing wrong with believing in whatever you believe in and having the politics you believe in. You should feel free to do that, but you have to realize that if you do that, you're going to alienate yourself from a certain portion of the jobs you're applying to. And so I'm just trying to tell you how to get a job. And everybody wants you to be focused. Like, a lot of these resumes are very good. This is a very good resume for someone that wants to be a Social Security attorney. I love this resume. When you start getting into all this other stuff, a lot of times, like legal aid, and it can detract from it. You just need to be careful. And that's kind of my big piece of advice. There is another webinar that I did on this several months ago where I reviewed a bunch of other resumes. And then if I didn't review a resume today, and there's enough of them that came in, I will do a special other follow-up to this next week where we can go over more resumes as well. Thank you so much for attending today. And let me just see. Let me just select a couple. There's a couple questions that I want to make sure that I answer here that people submitted as well. So I will answer them right now. Let's see here. Sorry, let me just do these questions. Can you provide some examples of good bullet points or descriptions, since you're eliminating a lot of people's details about their jobs? So the descriptions that you do, you don't want to go into too much detail. So a lot of the ones that I've eliminated, and I'll just go into them, like you can see here, like areas of practice, all these sorts of stuff. Like, a lot of the things that I'm eliminating are things that people know that certain attorneys automatically do and aren't really necessary. And so you just need to be very careful about adding a lot of these summaries and so forth. And you want to be very careful, because the more of that stuff you add, the more it's going to detract. You just need to be able to make a compelling message to people, what it is you do, very quickly, and not confuse them. If you do that, you can do it in a different. Okay, this is another one. If you're interested in changing practice areas, how can you describe and formulate your experience? So a lot of people are interested in switching practice areas, and many times people get into the wrong practice area when they graduate from school, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and sometimes it's just completely beyond their control. So if you're interested in switching practice areas, unfortunately, the way you need to do that is you just need to format things that are related to the practice area you're trying to get into. And then you just need to apply to places that are willing to look at you switching practice areas. So the type of firms that are willing to look at you switching practice areas are going to be firms in locations where it's hard for them to find people, in locations where it's hard to find people, firms that are having a hard time finding people. So I see people switch practice areas all the time. But one example would be, like, I knew a woman, for example, that was practicing in a large firm in San Francisco doing patent law. She wanted to do environmental. So she ended up getting hired by a firm in Sacramento, because the firm in Sacramento would have a hard time finding someone with her qualifications. Sacramento, by the way, is not a great place to live. It's not a bad place, but it's certainly not like San Francisco. It's a kind of not the same place. So you have to find a firm that's having a hard time finding people. Okay, let's see here. Another question. There's a lot of questions here. So, and I apologize that I haven't answered these questions earlier. I didn't really see them. I've been recently offered a job at a Vault 6. My current firm has tried to come my offer to make me stay. They have also promised to fast track my salary partnership prospects. My concern is whether my current firm are real or not. If my business case relies heavily on other correspondence from me, which I feel is risky. I'm mindful that I may be giving up a good offer from my desires. Okay, well, typically if a law firm needs you, they will say a lot of things to keep you to stay. And you have to really understand if they're telling the truth or not. Because if you leave, they're going to suddenly be losing a lot of money. They may believe that you'll eventually leave if you do give notice, so they will typically work on replacing you. And this is something that happens most of the time, but not all the time. So if a law firm does, but if it is a Vault 6 firm, I think that's probably going to help your career as well. And I don't know how good of a firm you're at right now, but if it's that good of a firm, then and it's that much of a move up, then you may want to decide if that's a good move for you. But many times when people move to better firms, it's not a good move. The more difficult firm and the more competitive the firm you're at that you go to, the harder it's going to be to stay there. And so that's just something to think about. And anything when you think about money and stuff when you're younger in your career, any money that you make when you're young in your career is not the most important thing is getting experience. And so even partners that are joining firms will join firms where they're making hundreds of thousands, if not even $1 million or more dollars less than they're capable of making, but they join it because they believe it's a better long-term opportunity for them, or the training they're going to get is going to help them much longer. Okay, let's see. The next question is, how does an attorney develop a book of business at one of the major firms? Conscious that these firms only focus on so a lot of times at major law firms, those major law firms will let you bring in small mid-cap work. Honestly, the best way to bring in work, I think, at a large firm is to really decide, see a specialty or something. You have to start thinking like a business person and seeing work that is necessary that other people aren't doing. And you have to start making friends and networking with people that are in general counsel's offices and things at companies and helping them out and offering help without expecting anything in return. That's one of the things that I've seen people do at major law firms to get a lot of work and just start networking and going to events and getting out there and meeting people. And I realize that's a very general answer and the same kind of thing you hear often. But the idea is that if you start visualizing yourself and thinking about yourself bringing in business and getting big clients, then you will. And the big mistake a lot of people make is they worry about their jobs and they don't worry about bringing in business or think about ways to do it. And if you do that, then you'll do much better. I've written a lot of articles about how to bring in business and so forth, and they're on BCG. And I would look at those. But it's very important, and you need to think about it. I also a lot of times recommend starting to write articles for your firm and do things in different niches. And those niches would be related to the type of work that you do and different types of transactions where you can see people getting an advantage and think about the kind of work that people that are your potential clients are searching for so you can get found. And when they find you, so they can use you. So if you have a good GPA in law school and that good GPA in undergrad, you list your good GPAs. Yeah, I like listing good GPAs. I actually love hiring people that have really good GPA in college because law schools kind of, for some people, it's hit or miss. You either get it or you don't. And some people, it takes them longer to get it than others. And what I like about a good GPA in college is you just have to work hard to get it many times. And it shows that you're self-motivated and so forth. So yeah, you can just list your GPA and a college, not law school. That's perfectly fine. How do you state document? You can talk about document review on your resume, and there's nothing wrong with talking about it. The problem is if you're asking someone to hire you on a temporary basis, on a permanent basis, when you're showing you're doing temp document review, you're showing that you may be doing something that you may not be interested in committing to practice law, or you weren't able to find a job, or other people weren't hiring you. So that just raises questions. Or you wanted flexibility, but all those things, regardless of the reason, people are going to react to them negatively. So many times you can just call yourself a consulting attorney or something, but you really want to, I either would not list it directly, or I would figure out a way to not talk a lot about it and really try to focus on, that's if you want to get a job in a law firm. And I don't think there's anything wrong being a document review attorney. Honestly, I know one document review attorney that did very well, doing it for years, saved a lot of money, retired in his early 40s. There's nothing wrong with being a document review attorney. He had a lot of fun and great guy. So it depends on you. You have to decide if that's what you want to do. I typically don't recommend, if you can help it, at least in your first several years of practice, being a document review attorney, because you really want to go someplace where you're trained and you're trained to do other things. So if you are a document review attorney, you can certainly, e-discovery is a huge practice area right now. And we have jobs where they're literally paying like $300,000 a year for people with a lot of experience with it. And so it's also a good practice area. It just depends on you, but what you want to do. But anything you do, you should be the best in the world at and do the best. Let me just, okay, let's see. How to present a resume when you change careers. Listen to the question. Sorry. How to present a resume when you change careers from dental to professional to attorney. Nothing wrong with that. So law firms we'll hire people that if you change from the dental profession, there's nothing wrong with that. What I would do would just list your legal experience on top and then have something short at the bottom that says other. And you could just say was a dentist or something. There's nothing wrong with that having an internship in law school. People that see resumes of people that are just coming out of law school really don't pay a lot of attention to the internship unless it was at a really good firm or something, and aren't really that concerned about it. Just listing that and then not having a lot of information about the dentist, like talking about it, but really just talking about that you're interested in practicing law is what I would do. And then you have to get yourself out to a lot of firms. And that's one of the things that I always recommend to people is doing whatever you can. And this next question relates to that. And then we're just wrap it up. How would you try to get in with the first low experience and all insurance job was looking for 3 to 5 years of experience? So the best thing you can do is really, and this is my final piece of advice, is all the jobs do not want 3 to 5 years of experience. And as a matter of fact, 95% of the placements that we make at BCG, and we're a recruiting placement firm, are with firms that don't have any openings. So if you're applying to firms with openings, no openings. If you're applying to firms just with openings, you're going to get far fewer jobs than you otherwise would get. So I always recommend applying to every possible firm you can find and regardless of the markets you want to, and not just applying to openings. If you're only applying to openings, you're definitely shortchanging yourself. All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much. I certainly appreciated everyone being here today. And we do this every couple months. And so the next one, if you want to redo your resumes, I'll critique them again. But I appreciate it, and we'll make this recording live in a few days. Thanks.